And the Braves, to me, should have been favorites over the Dodgers, and they should have been favorites over the Astros because they played better than those teams and were better than those teams for the last half of the season and into October. So they deserve to win, but it certainly was with a cast of characters that is unexpected.
Not to get too in the weeds on sports gambling, but you realize that the intention of every line, sometimes the house does some funky stuff, but the intention of every line is just to get 50-50 action. And teams like the Astros, Dodgers, and certainly the Yankees in 2003 were what you might call public teams, just established brands. So in order to get the kind of action that guarantees a house win just on VIG alone, you favor the Yankees in 2003 or you favor the Dodgers this season.
Well, and by the way, the odds already are out for the 2022 World Series. And guess who's favored? Of course, it's the Dodgers are big favorites, and the Yankees are up there, and the Braves are not, and the Red Sox are like plus 1,600, and the Blue Jays are plus 1,800. Of course, that's why lines are made, which is why, and we have to whisper this because of sponsors. So at CBS, where I work, and maybe even with DraftKings, we have to whisper this. The house always wins. Shh, don't tell anyone.
You mentioned Alex Anthopoulos,
Anthopoulos.
I'm sorry. I'm married to a Greek. I'm sorry.
Wait, actually, that means you should know how to say his name.
Well, that means maybe I said it right and you didn't say it right. Yeah. Very.
Maybe. No. Alex may not be Greek. Let's go with that.
No, that name is definitely Greek.
Then it's definitely Anthopoulos.
Tomato. You have enough Greek Easters, you hear different pronunciations of that. It's common to make the I sound, but my experience. I'm not gonna pull the Greek card anymore.
By the way, you're doubling down. Why are you doubling down on this?
Because I've heard Greeks themselves, when they're talking Greek, pronounce it a lot more harshly.
Okay, so what's the name of the GM of the Braves?
Alex Anthopoulos.
Okay. So
wait. I've never heard. No. I've never heard this guy's name pronounced. So what is it?
It's Alex Anthopoulos.
Yeah, that sounds better.
As in the Acropolis, which also happens to be in Greece.
Yeah. All
right. How do you pronounce the Acropolis?
The Acropolis.
Okay, Alex Anthopoulos. It rhymes.
All right. Hang on. I'm going to Google Acropolis.
Keep doubling down, baby.
That has an I in it. This doesn't have an I in it. So.
Let's call him Alex. Let's call him Alex P. Keaton and move on.
Just saying the I makes that sound. There's no I in this. He literally has every other vowel but an I in his name. So he's very good, though. He wasn't able to celebrate the World Series championship because COVID. Remember that. That's still around. And he tested positive for COVID.
So we don't know for sure whether he tested positive. What we do know for sure, at least I haven't read so far, but again, I closed my eyes after the World Series and only opened them for you, Mikey. But I can tell you that he wasn't there, and I noticed it first when they were getting the trophy from the commissioner and the people who should be getting the trophy, Terry McGurk, the chairman. Then you've got Alex Anthopoulos, the president of baseball operations. Then you have Brian Snitker. Then you have Alex P. Keaton, the president of baseball operations. And then on top of that, you'd have Freddie Freeman and Brian Snitker, the manager. And Alex was nowhere to be found.
Wait, you said that you don't. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You said you don't know if he tested positive. Your CBSSports.com, the media company that you work for, reported that.
Okay.
Just saying, you're calling me out. Hazel May can confirm. Braves GM Alex Anthopoulos tested positive, no symptoms for COVID Saturday. He watched the game with his family in Atlanta.
Okay. So I didn't read Hazel May, but that said, on the assumption that's correct, though I wouldn't dare to talk about somebody's sort of health because of HIPAA, I would only say this.
He confirmed it to Hazel May, so I'm good.
Oh, is he quoted?
This. Yeah, he can confirm. She can confirm that she quotes him. I just didn't want to be a distraction before the end, so she spoke directly to him.
So that's an interesting quote because that's the quote of someone who may not have tested positive, but maybe is in the protocol. And I only say that because it's not a distraction. Oh, I guess if it had been announced beforehand,
Yeah.
so it was only a distraction after. Yet, of course, before a game, everyone's on the field. Everyone knew there that Alex wasn't there. So there was no shock. It's not like the players didn't know.
He's really good, by the way. His track record is phenomenal with the Atlanta Braves. This guy was a rising star in baseball.
So he started as an intern with me in Montreal in 2000.
Really?
Yeah, my first year in baseball.
So you
we had him as an
probably
intern.
do know how to pronounce his name.
No, what do I know? Listen, he was an intern. I never was introduced to him. No, I'm just kidding. But hold on.
Are you going to take credit for his success? Do it.
Absolutely zero. But I would like to ask you a question, and I'm going to bring it back to the Marlins because you've touched a bit of a nerve. You've touched a nerve, which is not hard for you to do with me.
What? Let's talk about
Because
A.J.
of the
Burnett
nature of our
ruining
relationship.
the rotation with that injury in 03.
No, I'd actually like to know why, when we won the World Series in 03, you went so public so often that this was Dave Dombrowski's World Series and that Larry Beinfest and David Samson didn't do crap.
There were a lot of players there that Dombrowski brought aboard, but I haven't been super public. And we hashed this out during one of the lockdown shows. You guys made a lot of important moves. I think.
So I gave you the math, and
Yeah.
you changed your mind,
Yeah.
and you ate shit, right? That's what you did because you were so
Didn't eat
interested
shit.
in taking me
I
down.
didn't eat shit. It was more of an agree to disagree.
Oh, so you're not convinced yet. Fair enough. So now let's look at the Braves.
Look, you have your agenda, and I think Dombrowski's moves, also the first fire sale, obviously set the table for the turnaround in 03.
Mike, it's not an agenda. You're completely incorrect because what you think of what my role was in the 03 World Series is wholly irrelevant to what my role was in the 03 World Series, right? I don't need you to think that me and Larry were involved at all. It doesn't matter. But you're so quick to say that Alex is responsible for the Braves. Why don't you look at the roster and see who he's responsible for versus who his predecessor was responsible for in terms of drafting and having traded for? And I think you'll find it's an interesting mix as well, which means that like the Marlins, the Braves put together a team that both needed new components in order to get a job done, but also had old components. So Alex deserves a ton of credit, but the way you said it would indicate that he is solely responsible. And I would argue he may be solely responsible, but if you're going to say that, then so was Larry.
Fair enough. I mean, having to replace your entire outfield mid-season is quite the hurdle to clear for a general manager. And this team in particular had a lot of in-season tweaking. And they made real decent moves at the deadline. Jocktober paid dividends.
Terrible. First of all,
you don't like
yes,
Jocktober?
He made first of all, here's what bothered me about Jocktober.
By the way, David,
himself.
I'm doing really well for somebody that didn't watch a single second of this World Series so far, outside of the mispronunciation of a Greek GM's name.
So Jocktober had a terrible World Series.
Really?
I think he hit below 100.
I saw that's perfect. Well, I saw he had a good NLCS, no doubt. I saw a bunch of Jocktober tweets.
So there was a lot of
My point wasn't that he had a good World Series. My point was that it was a good transaction for the Atlanta Braves, and that's irrefutable.
I refuse to refute you.
All right. Let's talk about Freddie Freeman's teeth. Did he go to
veneers?
Did he go to the Liverpool team dentist? What's going on there? I just noticed these chompers. I saw videos on Twitter earlier this week of their celebration.
Is this good content to talk about people's veneers?
I obsess over it.
You do because you think they look fake, or because
they
you love how
fake.
perfect and white they are?
No, I don't like that look. He looks like Jim Carrey in The Mask, like just a grin. It's just too much, like Jurgen Klopp. Ugh.
So it's a very interesting thing. A lot of players get them.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in Hollywood get them.
For sure, but a lot of people in Hollywood have good ones. These aren't necessarily great. Like I said, he went to the Robert Firmino dentist.
I'm not going to yuck on Freddie Freeman because I know him, and here's why. It's personal. He's one of the nicest players and people you'll meet in baseball.
Okay.
He's a top 10.
All right.
If you actually combine talent and personality, he may be a top 10 all time. Yeah. He is the most unassuming superstar.
Wait,
and people overuse that word.
You have rankings of talent meeting personality to make an all-encompassing great player?
No, it doesn't make him a great player. You have to be a great player first.
You have to be a great player,
They're
but when you
totally-
combine
they're totally
his
separate.
talent with his personality, he may be top 10.
Yes.
You always
Don't ask me to do a top 5.
No,
but
I'm not. You know, I'd love to jump at the chance of having you do
Yes,
a top
you do.
5. You get really. It's not often where you get uncomfortable, but pointing out the veneers of your friends Dan Uggla and Freddie Freeman always seems to make you squirm a little bit.
I'll tell you why. It's a great point. I'm glad you remember that. I actually spoke to Uggla during the game on Wednesday night, and we were talking about the fact that his good friend Freddie was going to win a ring and how happy he was for him. And I wasn't thinking about Dan's veneers or Freddie's veneers at the time of the conversation because it doesn't matter to me. But I do think about it when I'm with them in person.
Okay, see? That's human of you. I think about him nonstop, but go on.
So I think that thinking about them when you're talking to them versus thinking about it nonstop, I think that's the difference between being normal and being obsessive.
Whoa, normal is a bit loaded here. I understand that what I'm doing is projecting some of my own faults onto this whole Freddie Freeman discussion, right? But we don't need to start judging.
Oh, I think that this is the perfect venue to judge because we could be talking about the fact that Freddie Freeman made it through a rebuild.
Yeah.
Now made it through. He got a big contract and he made a ton of money.
He also got COVID really bad last year, didn't he? He said he almost
so
died.
Bad. I can't say that he almost died.
Well, no, that was the chatter on the boards that I think he gave a direct quote that he felt like he was going to die.
That could just make him
Let me see
Jewish,
what Hazel
right?
No.
Because
Let me
I
see
feel
what
like
Hazel
I'm going
May
to die
tweeted.
every day at least once as part of my hypochondria.
Yeah.
I assume before my eyes close almost every night. I don't know if you can understand this because you're a goy, but the fact is that before I close my eyes every night, I always feel like I'm going to die.
Yeah.
It's a very bizarre.
Freddie
way to live,
Freeman's
actually.
4-month journey from COVID victim. So he was wow.
He did have bad COVID, and then he came back to win the MVP
Yeah.
in that shortened season of 2020. He's just a professional player.
Yeah.
Great defender, great middle-of-the-order bat.
Hall of Famer?
100%.
Yeah. I agree,
Freddie
especially
Freeman
now
is a
that
Hall of Famer.
now that he's got that World Series ring too. Not that matters so much in baseball and their Hall
But he
of
also
Fame.
has something else, right? He's got the respect of the writers.
Yeah.
And we can say that doesn't count, but boy, that counts. He has a great relationship with all the writers because he's a good guy.
How is he still good? He's actually younger than I
He's
thought.
young. He's
Yeah.
only 33.
Yeah, well, he's going to be 33 next season. Presently 32. You should know better. You said he's your friend.
He's playing at 33 for his free agent contract. So that's a young free agent. He's a free agent. Now the
Would you
Braves are
sign
in a
him?
really big pickle.
Would you sign him?
So if he demands 6 years, I would say no. But you can't say no because he won you a World Series. But we said no to Pudge, who wanted 4 years, and let him go.
Everyone's talking about Freddie leaving. Like, it's kind of understood that this was his last hurrah with the Atlanta Braves.
No, I think that everyone's talking about Correa leaving the Astros. No one's talking about Freddie leaving the Astros.
Really? People are
leaving
talking
the-
about
the
that?
Braves.
Again, I didn't watch a second.
No, I no, and that's become more and more apparent throughout the hour. But I would say that, in fact, it's Freeman who is going to re-sign with the Braves, and Correa likely had his last game with the Astros.
Really? Correa is young. That guy's a hot shot.
He's a good player. He's a shortstop, but he's one of many shortstops.
Can't help but
who are
notice that
free
you're talking
agents.
to me like an idiot now.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to help Well, I'm assuming that the audience knows the same amount you do. So I'm saying that the position player, that the position has the most strength in free agency. I don't want to come off that way at all. I don't care that
Do you
you don't
assume,
know.
much like me, the audience also didn't watch a second of this World Series?
I'm assuming that I watch a game in a different way
Yeah.
than the audience, and that's why it's interesting. Don't you, when you speak to people who are analysts or who have been in an industry, don't you assume that they're paying a different level of attention?
Oh yeah, all the time. That's why I trust people that are top of the pyramid analysts to tell me what to think about when it comes to football and baseball
So
too. I don't know shit about baseball anymore.
But that's my point. So I'm not being condescending to the audience. I'm trying to be informative.
Your point is that
And
I
I'm
don't
not-
know shit about baseball.
No. I'm actually just trying to say that it's Freddie Freeman who is very, very likely to sign with Atlanta, but he's got them by the S&Cs.
Yeah.
And the reason he does is that he's sort of youngish, but not too young as a free agent. When you're playing 33, you are not in your prime anymore when you are starting a free agent contract at 33. and 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 contracts signed by free agents in their late, early 30s or early mid 30s, those deals don't work out.
Yeah, historically in that sport.
But you don't have a choice with Freddie. You just don't.
That's
so
that's a blanket statement, but is there any time that it did work out? I'm sure.
Obviously.
I'm sure a couple of times. The Giants had like a really old team. Those weren't necessarily free agent signings, but they had a real old team this year and were successful. And I think even they were the team of the decade in the teens. They had a lot of older players that made contributions there. But I'm trying to think of the guy that everyone
this year
swore
they had
was
career bests.
Well, 2003. You guys signed the guy that was considered a bad signing at an advanced age, and you guys ended up winning a World Series with him at catcher, despite everybody on that staff hating him.
Well, steroids are awesome, right? I mean, they totally help.
Players
everything.
age differently now. You're absolutely right. Now,
So
if
it's
you
totally different.
if you sign someone at 32 now, it's just basically this guy's, man, just looking, once again, applying my own prism to stuff, to be considered washed at 34, 33. It's a damn shame. You mentioned that when you're hanging out with Ugla and Freddie Freeman, that's when you start thinking about the teeth. Do you just like lock in when they're talking to you?
It's a great question. It's also it's how you engage someone with a lazy eye as well.
Yeah.
Or how you engage Scherzer when he has two different color eyes.
I wouldn't stop looking at it.
So it's hard. You have to know when you're just talking to someone. Do this next time as an exercise. Like we're doing it now, but we're not looking at each other too closely because of this. But we're in the same room. When we talk to each other, we're looking, hey, oh, God, he's got a little bit of a zit on his cheek, or, oh, I can notice that, but I don't care. I can move on. Oh, that's interesting. He shaved, but it's a little off. Or then you're just looking at his eyes and then forehead, and you're just looking at different places. And that's sort of normal, what people do when they're talking. But when someone has a lazy eye, or someone has two different color eyes, or someone has something going on in their mouth, you say to yourself, don't look only at that. Yet you find yourself only looking at that. And it's so uncomfortable because you can't stop no matter how hard you try.
I'm actually pretty good at making people not feel self-conscious. But in my mind, it's all I'm thinking about. Like I can barely get through the sentence because my mind is obsessing about it. But in terms of how they feel, I kind of feel like I'm considered in that way.
But I think that you think you're tricking them, and I'm almost positive that you're not. And I do have an example of this.
Really?
Because
with me?
No, not with you.
Okay, good. Because I was going to tell you what's wrong with me.
It's me thinking that I'm tricking someone when in fact I'm not.
Okay.
So the first time that I saw Uggs and his veneers, I didn't say anything for the first few minutes of the conversation, and I thought that I was being cool, even though I couldn't stop looking, but I pretended not to look, and I was trying to maybe just look at something else and whatever the case may be. And finally, I just had to break the ice, and I said, hey, are those new teeth? And he said, man, you've been looking at them the whole time. And I thought I hadn't been. So maybe you think that you're super good at it, but in fact, you're not.
Let me see your smile real quick. Yeah, you got a good grin. It's very white.
I have good teeth, but no. I never had braces, never had a retainer.
Really?
It is an absolute miracle, and it wasn't for lack of having a dentist because my siblings all did.
You do whitening? You do whitening?
Yes, I've done whitening, but I have sensitive teeth, so I get the shockers after I do some whitening, and I find the juice is not worth the squeeze anymore because do you know what the shockers are when you white your teeth? You get you'll just be talking in the middle of a sentence, and then you'll have a shooting pain in your tooth.
I've never had that before.
It's the worst pain
Talking
ever.
about when you bite into an ice cream cone?
Worse than that. Not the thing on the roof of your mouth. Not the brain freeze.
No. I'm talking about like directly in the tooth. Like you feel like there's a nerve in your tooth, and you feel
that's what it is then.
Piercing pain.
So I've not done that before with ice cream. I don't remember that feeling, but I will tell you that that's what it is. There is a nerve, and when it whitens, the nerve is a little exposed, I guess, and you get this shock every once in a while, and the pain stops you in your tracks. It's a little tiny tooth in a little tiny body, yet you can be in the middle of a conversation. I could be doing a show. I could never whiten my teeth before a show, as an example, because when it hits, it's paralyzing. Wow. You can't just talk through it, right? If my knee hurt right now, or I had a pain and I had a broken toe or whatever, I could get through it while in a show. But if you get the tooth nerve thing from whitening in the middle of a show, it goes. You have to stop for a long enough pause that it's uncomfortable.
Did you make Alex Anthopoulos? Did I pronounce it right there that time?
Yes.
Well, we'll see. I'll ask my wife. We'll see what she has to say. Do you remember your time with him in Montreal all that much? I mean, I don't know how much interns were. Well, you were a bigwig over at Montreal. I don't know how much you mix it up with the interns over there.
Yeah, so I did a lot more with the interns. I'm going to rephrase that statement. Can we allow a rephrase of that? Yep. In Florida, I was a lot more involved with the interns. No, let me rephrase that. Unbelievable. I'm going to try to find the right words. I had a bigger vested interest in the intern program in Florida because we had 55 interns who actually were responsible to operate the company as full-time employees, even though we paid them as interns. Whereas in Montreal, the internship program was much smaller. And so I was new to baseball, and therefore I did not. Do we have to wipe that?
No.
Bad?
I'm just, a little bit. I'm familiar with this move as someone that worked for Michael Yormark. Hire an intern to basically have a full-time job.
Does that make you sad?
I don't think it's actually something people can get away with anymore in 2021. I think internships kind of got canceled a few months ago.
So,
which, by the way, I have a totally different feeling on it. I'm very thankful.
I got to tell you what we did. Brian Chatton is the current assistant general manager of the Miami Marlins who survived the Jeter changeover. He's the last guy standing. He started as an intern in the ticket sales department, and he wanted to be in baseball, as many of them do. And he struck up a relationship with Larry and Mike and me, and we brought him along. Manny Colon, our director of team travel, who Jeter got rid of, started as an intern in a different department. And once you're in, which is why I always suggest to people when they ask for career advice, if you want to work in sports, you got to be willing to live in any city, work for any sport, and do any job just to get in the door. And once you're in the door, you've got to make yourself different than everybody around you and not care when they don't work hard or when they're joking around or playing office politics, because you're going to get noticed.
The single proudest client from the David Samson internship program, us over here at the Dan Le Batard Show, we're very proud of our internship record and promoted from within. You're talking to a former Le Batard Show intern. Billy is a former Le Batard Show intern. Chris Whittingham, the voice of Marlins baseball, at least in stadium, Josh Appel, is an intern. Tampa area news anchor Ryan Bass is a Le Batard Show intern. Star-studded. Your most proud moment as someone that had interns under him was which specific example?
Well, I gave you the most public example is going to be Brian Chatton, but there's examples of people in every department, in the community department who started as interns and ended up running the community department and had long careers with the Marlins. There's people who are interns who have gone on to do unbelievably great things with different organizations. We had someone named Juan Garciga, who is now running the RBI program, Reviving Baseball in Inner Cities for the Texas Rangers. All you want to do with interns is to train them, and you then pay them a stipend. But what you're giving them is a resume builder, and what you're getting from them is work. And you are able to quickly discern who's good and who's not. You are able to quickly figure out who's going to help you and who's not. And I always loved when people who worked for me went on to do other things, because I didn't surround myself with people who didn't want my job. I did the opposite. I surrounded myself with people who wanted my job, and that kept me sharp, and it kept them sharp, and it meant they were smart, and that's what I wanted. No yes people, just people who wanted my chair.
All right, let's go through a little bit of rapid fire here through some sports topics before we get to your review. Henry Ruggs was involved in a fatal accident, was driving under the influence. The Las Vegas Raiders acted so quickly, announcing that they have released him basically when the Braves were lifting the trophy. People were curious at the timing. Wasn't reading too much into that. Your take on how the Raiders handled this situation, which ultimately probably set a template for a swift course of action in that sport.
Well, that accident it's not your ordinary DUI where it's someone fell asleep. Let's say the GM of the Mets, Zach Scott, fell asleep at a light. Tony La Russa fell asleep at a light in Jupiter and was drunk, but the car was stopped and no one got hurt. We're talking about drunk driving and killing someone. He's going to go to prison. So to me, it's open and shut. It's not a question. He would have been released immediately, no matter how good he is, because he's not going to be available to play in anything other than the California Penal League, right? That's it. So there's no reason to not take a stand immediately. And in terms of doing it while the Braves were hoisting the trophy, believe me, I was not focused. When I ran the Marlins and we had issues with our team, I did not think for 1 second when there was an acute issue that I had to think about what was going on in other sports. I was so self-involved in our orbit that I was going to take care of what I had to take care of with reckless indifference toward timing and whether or not it would impact where people's attention is. It's not like a Friday news dump. You know the expression, a Friday news dump, where you would try to do something late Friday so it wouldn't be in the paper and no one cares about Friday news because they're on their weekend. Well, that concept doesn't exist anymore because the internet is a 24-hour news cycle now. So it's not like the Raiders were trying to hide this behind the Braves World Series. There is no hiding what's going on there. And that organization, man, it's just one thing after another there in Vegas. And I don't think there's a correlation between being in Vegas and having this happen, but it certainly doesn't help.
Yeah, I don't know if you've watched any of Mark Davis's press conferences. I'm sure they've made their way onto your timeline because anytime he talks, people seize on a couple interesting things going on with him. But there are rumors circulating that he doesn't necessarily fit the ownership club, and I think that's fairly obvious. And he kind of feels
his dad.
Yeah, but he kind of feels like he's being pushed out, and he kind of sounds conspiracy theorist when he talks in the media about what happened with John Gruden. And he is a dissenting voice. He's not holding the NFL line. He wants to see the emails too.
When you think of Mark Davis, I assume the first thing you think of is Al Davis.
No, hair.
Okay. So the first thing I think of when I think of Mark Davis is Al Davis. And the first thing I think of when I think of Al Davis is litigation.
Yeah.
Because that was my childhood, was an owner who was in litigation against his league all the time and moving. I think in my life, they were the Oakland Raiders. They moved to Los Angeles, and then they sued to go back to Oakland. And it was always something with Al.
He was always bucking against the NFL, but he had tenure. He had stature in that sport. Mark Davis is coming in as a son of Al Davis, and he's basically a new member to this club. So he has all the Davis eccentricities, none of the success, and again, that haircut.
Do you get the tenure of your dad?
No.
Or do you so Hal Steinbrenner starts over when he runs the team from George?
Yeah, I
with
think
the Yankees?
So. I think so. The Steinbrenner name carries weight, don't get me wrong, but he's not the boss.
Well, he's not the boss, but he's the boss. So you're saying he doesn't earn the capital B. He starts as a small B.
I'm saying Jerry Jones looks at Mark Davis, and when he does, he lingers around the hair for a little bit because how could you not? And then he just keeps moving on, whereas Al Davis commanded respect. Heck, Jerry Jones probably idolized Al Davis because Jerry Jones is a more corporate version of Al Davis, but he loves getting in personnel. He loves thinking he knows the game quite well. Al Davis was actually a football genius. Many people just remember him as a guy that looked like the crypt keeper and was a kook by the end, but that's not the case.
I'm not sure Jerry Jones idolized anybody.
Johnny Walker.
Except Jerry Jones.
Johnny Walker.
Oh, maybe that.
Yeah.
Or the Dos Equis guy.
Yeah, but I mean, the NFL has come a long way. If we use a Henry Ruggs example, when I was in high school, Leonard Little had a very similar issue, and he kept playing. And after he killed somebody with his vehicle after driving under the influence, he got another DUI, and he still got other chances. And across the pond, the team I support, Chelsea, Marcus Alonso has something like this in his past, and he's only got to deal with a couple of very uncomfortable chants when he goes on the road. So the NFL... some people may be thinking that they made the only move possible here, but if that's the case, it's a very recent sea change because that sport used to handle this way differently.
Boy, let's hope so, right? Because what you're saying is so disturbing to me, but I guess that's the equivalent of saying that it's never too late to change, and maybe we're trying to change now in terms of the way we look at gender equality or the way we look at homophobia or misogyny. Maybe we're realizing when we go back and look at movies, when I go back and listen to the song by Benny Mardones, called Into the Night.
Oh my
which
God,
is
how
one of my
uncomfortable.
favorite songs.
This happened to me the other day.
But it makes I can't listen to it anymore.
She's
and I'm
just
despondent
15.
about
What?
that. She was 16 years
yeah.
old. It never even occurred to me
15,
that was an
16.
issue.
Yeah.
Right. To me, that
right
was
off the top.
Wow, what a great start to a song.
Yeah,
That's
it's got
right
a great
off
start to
top.
the song, and then right off the top, she's just 16 years old. And I'm like, God damn it.
No, you weren't like that when you first heard it, though.
No, that was still a banger.
I donated money to Benny Mardones during COVID.
Really?
Yeah.
That's random.
Yeah. So I love that.
What's the story
song.
behind that?
There is a story
You can't
behind that.
admit to loving that song anymore.
I can both admit to loving that song and to being incredibly uncomfortable now that I listen to it in a different way. I'm willing to admit that. I'm willing to admit that I loved Soul Man with C. Thomas Howell and Ray Dawn Chong.
Benny,
And now I'm willing to admit that movie is incredibly not just inappropriate, but hurtful.
yeah. Benny
So
Mardones was bedridden with COVID?
No,
Or
not with
COVID
COVID.
fears.
It just happened to be during COVID. He had a disease and he was dying and he had no money. And so his family did a GoFundMe for him. And I donated money as a thank you for
Into the
what
Night.
he had. What?
For Into the Night, as a thank you for Into the Night.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hate to think that there are people who I have used, and of course it's a very long list, to be entertained and was not able to properly show my appreciation. I think about this with actors all the time.
Yeah.
When actors are down on their luck, or when I see basketball players or baseball players who are homeless, who have provided something for me, I feel a guilt or a responsibility when I learn about it to do something about it if something has impacted me. And the first marathon I ever did was 25 years ago. I'm running the New York Marathon on Sunday, and I have not run once since the Boston Marathon, might I add. But the first marathon I did was in 1996, the New York Marathon, November 3rd, actually. And I listened to Benny Mardones Into the Night almost on loop. And that, I have such a recollection of him helping me through my first marathon as I was hitting the wall somewhere on First Avenue up toward the Bronx. And
That is a funny pump-up song. I'm kind of down with it, but most people would say you gained inspiration and adrenaline from Benny Mardones' Into the Night. That's a very that's an upset, David.
So I love where your head's at. I listen to show tunes while I run. I
What?
listen to very calm music.
What's your favorite show
and,
tune? Like, what is your down with the sickness of show tunes?
Popular from Wicked, I'll listen to several times during a marathon. The entire soundtrack of Avenue Q. Definitely some Hamilton.
How about some Phantom?
Definitely some Rent. No Phantom.
No Phantom? Andrew
no,
Lloyd
I did
Webber
not.
did a DJ set. You have to see the videos of this thing. It was wild. He did a
I didn't
Phantom
like
DJ
Phantom.
set. What?
I did not like it, and I'm
What?
a major Broadway guy.
I'm not a Broadway guy either, but I respect the shit out of Phantom.
No, I'm a major Broadway guy, and I don't like Phantom.
Okay. Well, I like Hamilton. What's your favorite track from Hamilton? The Room Where It Happened?
That is a great song, but I don't listen to it often because it gets me too jacked up. So I like listening to
gets
the
you too
King
jacked
George
up.
song.
A
Yeah, so the point
song
is, why
from
do
a
I listen
Broadway
to this
musical
music?
gets you too jacked up. Okay.
I want to explain so you can understand, and the runners who are listening will get it. I'm trying to get my heart rate down as my anxiety is increasing as I'm hitting the wall or as I'm going out too fast in a marathon. And when you listen to fast music with a beat, you tend to run faster and your heart rate goes higher. When you listen to calm, relaxing music, it tends to bring your heart rate down. And to me, the marathons and Ironman, et cetera, it's all about heart rate management.
What's your favorite track in Hamilton? Helpless?
No.
Satisfied?
Selfless, I love. Satisfied, I love. I know you must be looking at your phone, but I will tell you this.
Man,
that
Leslie
it's-
Odom Jr., what a voice. Are you going to watch Needle in a Time Stack?
What's that?
What? You don't know about Needle in a Time Stack?
No.
Okay, I'm going to send you this. Well, I kind of ruined the punchline because you have to see the entire trailer and then see what ridiculous name, Needle in a Time Stack. But it's an interesting premise. I'm going to shoot you the trailer. This thing went viral. It stars Leslie Odom Jr.
He's really made himself a career.
Yeah, well, he was
First of all,
great in that.
Has anyone done more for Hispanics than Lin-Manuel Miranda? And he got
Probably.
such crap for In the Heights.
Yeah, I'm going to just without looking it up, I'm going to say someone probably did more for Hispanics than Lin-Manuel Miranda. But
Would
not
you
many.
say it's not many?
Not many.
And he got reamed for not casting enough dark-skinned people in the Heights. He got almost canceled for it.
What?
And it made me
What?
It made
He's
me
the most
insane.
inclusive person in the history of Broadway.
Take a look and read about what happened with his movie In the Heights, an unbelievable musical that he wrote before Hamilton.
Really? I saw the first 10 minutes. I'm like, I'm out on this.
So the movie was terrible.
Yeah.
But he got, because I love the play so much, but he got crushed. And he had to release a statement apologizing for not being sensitive enough to dark-skinned Hispanics.
Huh. All right. Moving on. What's your review for the week?
It's sort of on the same theme. I watched a documentary called This Changes Everything. Have you heard of it?
No.
It is done by Geena Davis.
Oh, really?
I didn't realize that Geena Davis,
what is she up to?
After Thelma and Louise,
Olympics.
She started, do you know what Thelma and Louise is?
Yes, I know. That's what the movie that announced Brad Pitt to an unsuspecting world for the most part. Yes, it's an iconic scene where Geena Davis and Susan Sarandon drive off the cliff. Spoiler alert at the end. Geena Davis was married to Jeff Goldblum. Geena Davis was a kick-ass action star in The Long Kiss Goodnight, an amazing movie that I highly recommend to anybody. Geena Davis was an Olympic alternate, I believe, in archery.
I did not know that.
Look at that. You better come correct when you start spouting about Geena Davis around me. I'll tell you that.
But then you don't know what she's most famous for now? Did you just stop loving her after she didn't make the Olympic team?
Yeah.
After she wasn't promoted off the alternate team, that was it.
Yeah, after there wasn't a longer Kiss Goodnight.
And that would have been the sequel.
Yeah.
And
the movie's awesome.
A French Kiss Goodnight. So she was in A League of Their Own.
Great, Dottie.
Another very powerful movie about women.
Beetlejuice as well. Man, she
yes.
Look at it. Hit row. Look at this. IMDb. Cutthroat Island.
Nah, that bankrupted a studio.
Yeah, is she going to be in Beetlejuice 2? What are your feelings about Beetlejuice 2?
I thought Waterworld bankrupted a studio. And Ishtar.
Well, you're a big Gene Triplehorn guy. And Waterworld's awesome. We can all agree. Waterworld was freaking awesome.
I had no issue with Waterworld whatsoever. No issue at all.
The scope, right? What were you saying about Geena Davis?
So the reason why she's famous now is after Thelma and Louise, she started an organization to try to promote women in Hollywood and figure out why women do not get enough roles. They're not directors. They're not producers. They're not writers. What's going on in this group, this...
I'm very embarrassed to admit this. I've seen this documentary. My wife started watching it, and I jumped in about 15 minutes in, and I watched the entire thing. It was spectacular. I did not know Geena Davis was attached to this, which is weird, considering I know more about Geena Davis than anyone you know.
Yeah, that is strange because the entire second half of the documentary, while your eyes may have been open or not open, or you may have been distracted by other things you were doing at the time, although that's not exactly a sit on the couch with your high school girlfriend and make out documentary. But the fact is that she started a think tank, if you will, and funded it. And then it got funding elsewhere as well, where they basically studied this, why so few women get to direct. And they had Reese Witherspoon on, Jessica Chastain, and they talked about what women go through in Hollywood. And I don't necessarily mean the Harvey Weinstein stuff, though that's definitely there, but just the general prejudice that comes when you've got a bunch of white studio male executives in charge of green lighting projects. And what fascinated me is that the tide is beginning to turn because there's so many talented women, just like there's so many talented men, that now we're saying there's just so many talented people. And without getting on a political soapbox, I love movies. I couldn't give a flying rat's ass whether my director is a woman or a man or a them or a he or a she. I want to be entertained with good stuff. And there's so much crap content out there that it doesn't matter to me. And the worst part about the documentary that got a ton of attention is the director of the documentary is a guy.
I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe. I thought they were playing a joke on me when the credits rolled around at the end. That,
So silly.
I
Right? It would have
couldn't
been
believe
so
it.
easy.
Top 5 Geena Davis roles. You want to do that? We'll do a shared top 5.
We named them already.
Yeah, but we'll do a draft style the way that we did with Edward Norton. And,
Yes.
And like an asshole, you pick the illusionist. I'm still mad. I still think about that.
I remember that.
I is as mad as I've been with you. Even worse than the Blue Jays trade, David Samson. Yeah.
Which is now next season. That will be a decade ago. What is the statute of limitations?
I'm forever changed. I didn't watch a second of the World Series. No, I'm forever
you're
changed.
saying there's no statute of limitations.
I'm done. I'm done with it. Like that killed my interest in the sport. But we've been down that road before. Number 5.
Why don't you admit to the audience that you had
5.
fun bringing your daughter to a game, though? Why don't you admit that?
I didn't really have fun. I brought my daughter to the game. I had a couple beers. Billy the Marlin waved. It was still like kind of weird with COVID. He was wearing an adorable see-through mask. But, it was, I had some of the food and then I left. And I dealt with the repercussions of eating the food. I'll go number 5. Earth Girls Are Easy.
Love that movie.
It's
I really do.
Borderline cult classic. Maybe she met Jeff Goldblum on this film, or no, she met him on The Fly. They got married, but he was in Earth Girls Are Easy as well. So was Damon Wayans and Jim Carrey as well. Great film. They were aliens, and there was a musical number in it. I love it when a normal movie for one scene turns into a musical. And then it just
There's a bunch of movies like that where out of nowhere they just start singing. I love that.
Yeah.
Mostly it's when they're on drugs, but still I love it.
So part of me did this as a joke, but I didn't think I'd run into someone else that liked Earth Girls Are Easy.
Oh, I love that movie.
All right.
Okay, and number 4 is a big one.
Go for it. You do it.
Hero with Dustin Hoffman.
That was underrated.
Hey, Roy.
Totally underrated, Roy, right?
Absolutely. That was definitely underrated.
I've never seen it. Should I add to my
you should go ahead and see that. Dustin Hoffman was pretty good in that.
I can't push back, but it seems as though a really good Geena Davis movie is not going to make this top 5 because we've included Earth Girls Are Easy and Hero to start when she has banger after banger. Already, man, there is going to be a really good movie left off this list. I'm going to go with The Fly. Number 3. Terrified me. The Fly terrified me. This is a Jeff Goldblum performance, first and foremost. But that movie is so great. The practical effects still hold up to this day, I think, although I haven't watched it in quite some time. The Brindle Fly terrified me. It was like the stages of his evolution into the full-on fly. The final stage was actually a disappointment. The lead-up was actually far scarier. Oh, my God.
With the fingernail.
Dude, with the fingernail, and then when he eats that dude's ankle by spitting the poison, the acid on it. My God. Geena Davis, what a performance. Jeff Goldblum, outside of maybe Jurassic Park, the performance he's going to be remembered for. Love The Fly.
Won't he be remembered for The Big Chill?
Oh, that was a good movie.
No. Jurassic, you are vastly underestimating the cultural impact that Jurassic Park had.
Oh, Jurassic Park's in my top 100, but so here's the problem. By including The Fly and Earth Girls Are Easy, we've got 3 movies for 2 slots.
Yeah.
So
what
exactly is your plan?
Well,
because I have the next pick, and I'm not going to let the segment end without mentioning Quick Change. I'm just not going to do it.
God, that wasn't one of the 3. That wasn't one of the 3 movies.
Quick Change with Bill Murray and Randy Quaid.
Man.
And then you've got Tony Shalhoub as the cab driver. You've got Geena Davis. And Jason Robards. Quick Change is a movie I may have seen 25 times.
We can't have Quick Change in our top 5.
Bus driver pissed me off so much.
There are message boards dedicated to Geena Davis that are furious with us right now because we haven't mentioned Beetlejuice isn't on this so far. A League of Their Own isn't on this. Thelma and Louise isn't on this. And guess what? None of them are going to end up in our top 5 because I'm going Long Kiss Goodnight as my number 1.
What?
Yeah. So, arguably, the 3 movies she's remembered for most don't make our top 5 Geena Davis. We are terrible at these collaborative top 5s.
Here's why, though, because we have this personal feeling toward movies that get forgotten about, and we want to get it out into the universe, into the Le Batard and Friends Network universe, so people can have an appreciation for movies that aren't what we would normally think of as associated, that would be drafted. So what we end up doing is screwing ourselves, because then we have what's out there, a top 5 list that is not a real top 5 list, but is our personal top 5
Which
list.
is how The Illusionist becomes #1 on the Edward Norton list. I'm still mad.
Nah, man. Any movie directed by Rennie Harlin should be disqualified in every list ever. It's terrible.
Rennie Harlin did a John Cena movie. What else did he do? Rennie Harlin did
Cliffhanger.
He did Die Hard 2, right? Die Harder.
Oh yeah, that doesn't count. That never happened. That's like Rocky 5.
Yeah, Die Harder did not count. Cliffhanger was freaking amazing.
It was
the first 15 minutes.
Yes, the first 15 minutes, and then the credits.
And Lithgow acted his ass off in that film.
As par for the course on that one, though.
Ass off.
We may have to do a draft for Sylvester Stallone, right? We can't. I don't think we have time to do it today.
I have my expert. Hang on.
But
I'm going to bring in.
It's going to be pretty funny if we do.
I'm bringing in. Well, no, we're going to have to do this next week because I know you got to run. But Stugotz is always got his. He's always got his top.
What
5.
happened?
You've always got his top 5 Sylvester Stallone movies ready.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah.
Wait, maybe we did this because I'm having some strange recollection of Stugotz entering at the end of one of these shows and talking about Rocky, and then saying that Rocky 1 wasn't good, but you start with Rocky 4 or Rocky 3.
Yeah.
Am I having is this possible that this is in the archives already, or am I in Total Recall?
You guys have done this before.
We've all done this show before.
Oh, and there's Dan.
it's
I
the way-
think we've done this whole show before.
It's the way I rank the Rockies. It's Rocky 4, Rocky
Right.
3, Rocky
Got it.
2, Rocky 1.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it.
I didn't go to the
Okay.
theater to see Rocky lose. You know what I mean?
Got it.
Five
Right.
never happened.
Okay.
David
Forget
Samson,
it.
host of Nothing Personal. We put together the worst Geena Davis top 5 in recorded history. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya. Bye.
See you, Dave.
Earlier this week, sports betting became legalized in Florida, and it was actually legalized for a few weeks before then, but just the Seminole Tribe of Florida didn't activate the app, and the app was activated just in time for Monday Night Football, and I'll never forget where I was.
For those who don't know, you had planned a whole weekend around what was supposed to be a seismic opening of sports gambling in which you went to the Hard Rock. You don't go that far north.
No, that was a miscalculation on my part. And look, I had a great time at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. I was by the pool the entire day watching Manny Diaz come up short yet again against North Carolina. But let's be real, I misplayed that hand. I wanted to be there for the activation of sports gambling, a physical sportsbook location, and table games. Missed it. Didn't happen. So I had a great time, but we were all left in a sort of limbo because sports gambling was legalized here in the state of Florida, but you had nowhere to actually bet it. And then Monday came along, and unannounced, very quietly, Hard Rock unveiled their app. No big announcement, but us in the streets, we knew.
How can this be done quietly?
That's what happens when you have exclusivity and no real competition in the state of Florida.
And all the money in the world.
Yeah, our partners at DraftKings would love to get into the state of Florida. Right now, the treaty states that they have to go directly to a negotiating table with the Seminole Tribe of Florida, who would get a cut. Now, all of that's open to negotiation, but they got the hand right now. They don't necessarily have to let it go for the foreseeable future. So they're first to market. And when you don't have real competition, you can do things like, well, that's not really a deadline. There's no hard and fast date. We'll go when we're ready. The app announced, and a Mike Ryan that was steaming his pants was in his undies and got the alert on his phone that it was officially a go. And he put $50 on Tyreek Hill to score the first touchdown on Monday Night Football. And that cash, baby!
I thought that was a euphemism, steaming his pants. I thought you were that excited about...
No, that's where I was. I'm painting a picture for you. I'll never forget where I was. And I wanted more pomp and circumstance. Yeah, I was 18 years old, sending Western Unions to someone with the last name of Bone in the Philippines. By the way, wasn't really located in the Philippines. A lot of money moving around. But it is what it is. It's a clean app, and I'm able to do this legally. I must say, I miss the dirty stuff.
Disappointing start. All of it seems quieter, and there is something to be said for feeling like you're doing something illegal, dangerous, dirty.
You didn't get pomp and circumstance, but if you could only have one, would you prefer more pomp or more circumstance?
Pomp.
I'm a pomp guy.
Really?
Yeah.
Put it on-
Circumstance.
Put it on the poll,
think so,
Guillermo.
too.
Wow, circumstance is so circumstantial.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's a misconception.
So is pomp.
Yeah.
Very,
Pomp is-
very
no,
pomp.
No. Pomp is ever present.
What is pomp? Put it on the poll at Batard Show. Pomp or circumstance, pick one. But what I've not used pomp. I don't use pomp in any other space except with circumstances. I don't know that you can separate them.
Is pomp the root word of pompous?
I believe pomp is like a flare.
Yeah.
like a-
I always
I
thought
always
that
pictured Elton John when he arrives to the stage. Pomp.
pomp
picture
is,
Greg Cody. Like Greg Cody thinks he has a lot of pomp.
pomp is not short for pompous. Greg Cody thinking that he has a lot of pomp is pompous. I think of pomp as a bit of a fireworks show.
Yeah. Pomp. You know it when you see it. Chiefs offense prior to this season. Pomp.
Have you ever used pomp without circumstance? Put that on the poll as well, Guillermo, please, at Batard Show. Have you ever used pomp without
No,
circumstances?
those are two peas in a pod, Dan.
But it was deflating. It was not what you wanted it to be.
Not
You
what
were
I envisioned.
Steaming your pants. What were you steaming your pants for? So you're in your underwear. You're in boxers.
Yeah, I was in my underwear. Which was actually, I free ball it mostly now, so that was a bit of an upset.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not free balling right now, Jess. You don't have to look at me that way. But when I wear joggers,
I was not looking
She
at
was
you.
moving away from you.
I
is
was
what she
doing like the
doing.
We're
blinking
looking at-
gif where I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
okay.
I have. I'm a big bird dogs guy, and they have the underwear lining inside the pant and/or short. So if I'm wearing bird dogs, the nuts are just flapping.
That's nice, Mike.
But they're pretty secured, and it is kind of liberating, and it is certainly refreshing, especially in the South Florida heat. Don't look at me that way, guys. Like you don't free ball. Look at this guy. I know this guy free balls.
I honestly don't.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You should. Tony,
Probably
you
should.
free ball?
Turn my mic on.
Yeah. Oh wait. Oh yeah. You actually have a mic there. Go ahead, Tony.
Hey, Dan.
I wasn't talking to you, and I don't care about your flapping balls.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there's a lot of feedback there in your microphone. Yeah, move that. What was? Go ahead.
How about now? Better?
A little bit.
Why is it that you insist on going to someone without a microphone only on flapping ball
He
situations?
has a mic.
Well,
Microphone,
Dano,
yeah.
I've got a microphone if you look in the Zoom right now. Ah, damn it. Where's Bob?
Bob.
Go to Bob Bob.
kind of wanted to hear Tony's answer.
I know.
Rebob.
Sliders.
Stop
sliders,
getting so
yeah.
close to your computer. I think that's some of the feedback.
How about
Stand
this? Is this better?
Yeah, stand far away from the equipment.
Okay. I think that. Oh, damn, it's coming. Oh, it's a speaker.
It's a speaker.
It's
a speaker.
Oh, wait. So you shouldn't be having it. All right, hang on.
This is a killer
should-
first appearance
That
by
should
you.
Yeah.
kill the speakers. All right,
How about
go
this?
for
Is
it.
this better?
Go for it.
Further.
Go for
Further.
it.
I like to wear sliders, and with sliders, I don't wear any underwear, but it's just a personal preference.
Look at us.
Glad we waited.
Just two dudes free balling. Anyways, what I envisioned, Dan, was being at the Bora Bora Cabana, toasting champagne that was comp because I'm such a big fat whale that I'm spilling money all over the place on UNC -7.5. It didn't happen.
Your 5-unit bet.
Notre
You were
Dame
going
covered.
in. It was a big 5-unit
That was
bet.
my only 5-unit bet of the college football season. Damn Mac Brown. I wanted to be backing bets up at the craps table when all this happened in one pompous display. I think I'm using it right. But it didn't happen for me that way. Nope. Instead, you got the real shit. Me in my underwear, steaming my pants. And I still, like I said, put a unit on Tyreek Hill to score first.
Did you like the app? Was it anything impressive? Can you take us through
Now,
the
keep in mind, I have to mention, I would love to use the DraftKings Sportsbook app here in the state of Florida, but I can't because it's not legal here in the state of Florida yet. The times that I've been in those states, I always use that DraftKings Sportsbook app, and it's a seamless app. But here in Florida, being that I want to be a law-abiding citizen and not do this the shady way and get timely payouts in a legal and orderly fashion, unless I have to pay taxes on it. Anywho, I was impressed with the app. Now, there's a couple of things that diehard gamblers would notice right away, and I made sure to send all my feedback to the fine people of the Seminole tribe of Florida. For example, wasn't happy with the soccer prices, not competitive in the industry. I did think that if the Seminole tribe went unchecked in the state of Florida, we were going to get taxed up the wazoo with bad, juicy prices. You know, instead of minus 110, you'd get minus 120 because screw you, we're the only team in town. Not the case. The prices were pretty good, but there were a couple of mistakes with adjusted lines. For example, I could have gotten the New York Giants at 11 at the same price I could have gotten them at 10.5. Why would I get them at 10.5? You know, little beta testing things. No hockey bets for regulation. I mean, are you serious? Just, you want me to spend extra juice when I got a good feeling about the Edmonton Oilers against the Seattle Kraken? What are we doing? No multiple TD props. That needs to change. Most importantly for me, as someone that does it his very best, betting soccer, I would like more competitive soccer prices and soccer props to score.
Did you write an angry email
No,
or
no,
did
no.
you ask to
I'm
talk
not
to
angry.
a manager?
I'm not angry because I hate to start with my nitpicks. It was an enjoyable experience. It's a very easy to navigate app. I like the bonuses. I like the promos. They could get a little more. What I think DraftKings absolutely rocks at is a single game parlays. They have so many fun bets that I'm just filled with jealous rage that folks in the great state of Indiana can take part in. I would like some more of that here because I think DraftKings absolutely cornered the market on that. I want some of that action.
Do we know when there's going to be competition in this market in Florida for these dollars?
It's going to be interesting to see because for the foreseeable future, I don't really see the Seminole tribe of Florida bending in negotiations. Why not enjoy the exclusivity for a little bit? But I do know from sources, more the merrier when it comes to gambling. Like the MGM Grand isn't upset that some of the other great properties in Vegas exist. That just makes it more of a destination. Well, rising tide lifts all boats is the general thought.
But not if you have all the money though, because not if you have exclusive rights to all of the gambling money in your state. Why wouldn't you ward off everybody?
Right. Well, there's you're going to have to spend a lot of money to get in the game here in the state of Florida.
You're going to have to give it to the Native
Yeah,
Americans who have this exclusively.
Dan, I went to a Rolling Stones concert last week, and while I was tailgating, I was approached by 5 different individuals, all with petitions regarding this very issue, and all with super vague language that I didn't know what side I would be signing for. Because I obviously want DraftKings to operate free and clear in Florida. I know that it's going to be a tough obstacle course for them to do it. I'd like to give them the signatures. They have to get an astronomical number of signatures to operate here in the state of Florida because the treaty states that the Seminole tribe of Florida will make it this difficult on all sorts of competitors. Now, the Seminole tribe would gladly go to the negotiating table with anybody that's willing to give them a 60-40 split.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're like BetMGM or Wynn or DraftKings, you have to reconcile with, is it worth it to get into the state of Florida? DraftKings is in a different position because every time they get cleared in a new state, they're a publicly traded company. Their valuation goes up. So is it worth it for them to give the Seminole tribe of Florida that big of a chunk? Do they start at a high number and see if they can whittle it away? It's fascinating to see what happens. But we know from just how long it took to get here and how slow the trot out and casual the trot out was for all these apps and the table games that we still don't know when that's going to happen. Seminole Tribe is totally cool slow playing this.
It's a totally different gambling experience to have craps, to have the energy of craps.
Yeah. I mean, Dan, you know the numbers in data suggest that sports books aren't necessarily a huge money maker in terms of what a casino rakes in. The sports book exists to get people into the tent. And then when they try to spill out of the tent, they'll drop a $100 on your slots or table games. And that's what this is all about, just making it more of a destination here in Florida.
Chris Cody, have you been lured in? I would think that you would be the first ones trying to download apps, trying to get in to the legalized prop betting game.
I downloaded the app, but on Monday I saw it after the Monday night game had started, which was great because I would have hammered Chiefs -10. So I was glad that I missed that one on Monday. But I'm in on it. I have not, made any bets yet, but I'll be there.
Haven't the Chiefs, we've talked a lot about the Chiefs through half a season, don't look right. Don't the Chiefs have some terrible number against the spread the last 20 games because their lines are so fat and everyone's scared to bet against them? You're scared to bet against the Chiefs because you're always scared that Patrick Mahomes is going to go to Tyreek Hill for 75 yards and just start screwing with you. You'd rather have that on your side than be betting against
But it
it.
still looks good every week. You just see, I'm still at they're not even that good this year. 4-4.
But I think they're like 3-18 or something ridiculous against the spread the last 21 games. I think it's terrible because everyone's afraid to bet against them.
You always want to take that offense. We were talking earlier in the week. If you have the Chiefs back into the playoffs as a 7 seed, they still might be the odds-on favorite because you have a proven commodity. You have the most faith in that team doing it in the end than anyone else. But even in victory, I kind of felt like all the things that we were saying about the Kansas City Chiefs got reinforced in that game. I don't feel any better about their prospects. Do you?
Well, how could you? They are basically devouring the NFC East. And the only times they didn't look right against the Giants, but they looked right against the Eagles. That's the team where we were like, okay, that game, that explains what was wrong. It's not wrong anymore. It's just football. But it doesn't feel like it's half a season in. It doesn't feel like it's just football. It feels like they are not what they've been, which has made me marvel yet again, right? Because even feasting on the NFC East, even with the benefit that the Patriots have had for 20 years of always playing against the AFC East, when I see Atlanta go from up 28-3 to disappearing, when I see Doug Peterson go from clocking the Patriots to get out of here, it makes me marvel at what the Patriots did for 20 years. That with Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce, and a defense that I thought last year had a bunch of game breakers on it, how hard it is to stay up there. It's just crazy.
If you're going to be a bad defense, you need to force turnovers at the very least. And they had ball hawks like Tyrann Mathieu, and Chris Jones just got healthy, so we'll see. I know they just traded.
Frank Clark disrupts.
Yeah,
like he
just traded for Melvin Ingram, so maybe they realize, okay, we're just going to be bad, but hopefully we can get some game-changing turnovers. I do feel better about their prospects just because they're 4-4, and the AFC is so congested that if you rattle off a 2-game win streak, you'll feel all right about your chances. And if you're in that tournament with Pat Mahomes, why not?
What did Tyreek Hill pay on first touchdown scored?
It was plus 500. A unit on that. I cleared 300. How about that? Unit for me is 50. Unit for everybody else is going to be different.
I'm seeing here the Chiefs are 1-9, including Monday night. They're 1-9 now in their last 9 home games against the spread.
Last 10.
Yeah, it says 9 here. I'm doing. It's actually the reason I screwed up there is because this thing says 1-8 the last 9, but this was before Monday night,
Mental
so
math.
I'm doing that.
He had
thing.
to add 1.
I did the
so
1-9, but then I continued reading and I said, 9 games.
Thank you, Chris, for adjusting to be more accurate.
Trying to help, guys.
You may not be freeballing, but you just showed your ass.
Yeah.
I have been waiting for someone to tackle this project for about 3 decades. I think I have this right, Stugotz, because there was something that could not be verified by anybody, a rumor surrounding Cal Ripken Jr. and how one of the longest streaks in the history of man of any kind, most memorable streaks we've ever seen.
I was getting ready to tackle it, and someone beat me to the punch.
Yes,
I was so close. I've been talking about it, thinking about tackling this subject for a while
But
now.
finally, someone has done the work to get to the bottom of what is called The Rumor. It's a Blue Wire podcast. The host and producer of it, Sam Dingman, is with us now. And I don't know where to start with this because I have a lot of questions. But the first place I'll start, thank you for joining us. How did you get this made? Because this is something that people have talked about for a long time, but nobody would dare approach it.
Yeah, well, it sounds like I stole Stugotz's project, so sorry about that. Thank you guys so much for having us. It's a real honor to be talking to you guys. And honestly, the way we got it made is my co-host and co-producer, Mac Montandon. It's exactly the way we say it in the podcast. He goes to a birthday. We've both been Orioles fans for all 3 of those decades, and then some, that the rumor has been whispered about. One night, Mac goes to a birthday party, hears from a guy in typical rumor fashion who knows a guy who was on the Baltimore police force the night this all went down, and he says it's all totally true. So we do some preliminary checking. We get a couple of other reliable folks who agree with that sentiment. We realize that it's an opportunity to talk not just about whether or not this old flotsam from the pre-internet era may actually have legs, but also about what it means to reconsider your heroes decades on when the circumstances that you fell in love with them under have changed significantly. We were very fortunate to connect with the folks at Blue Wire who put us in touch with John Yales and Peter Moses, who have been our story Sherpas the whole way through, and here we are.
For the uninitiated, okay, this is the rumor. The rumor is, and I don't know how you can tackle this part of it legally, but the rumor is, Stugotz, what are the details that you have heard of this rumor? What do you know? What is the past as it regards the Cal Ripken streak that you know?
What about the streak itself? That there was...
About the rumor that kept the streak alive. Do you know what the rumor is?
I have no idea what the rumor is. Again, I said I was about to tackle this project. I never got to tackling the project. That's why we're having Sam on, so Sam can tell us what the rumor
You
was.
are unbelievable.
You like that?
So you don't even know the
Got
rumor.
myself out of it.
No, you didn't. You failed.
Well, I know
Either
the
that or
rumor
he's
is
protecting himself from legal repercussions.
Costner, Ripken, a wife is involved, a cheating scandal, 2 friends, the extension of the
All right,
streak.
he called it up on the internet. Okay, so Sam,
You are useless.
I mean, just fundamentally useless.
I was about to tackle. I never got to it.
The rumor, the rumor is, and I don't know if you guys got to verification. I don't know how many episodes there are, but that the streak was kept alive. How, Sam?
Yes. So here is the rumor as it is commonly told. It's August 14th, 1997. The Orioles are in the heat of a pennant race, which is hard for a lot of people who have become baseball fans in the last few years to conceive of. But they're actually in the midst of what would be a wire-to-wire first place run in 1997. They've got a game scheduled against the Seattle Mariners on August 14th, 1997. And just before the game, there's a mysterious power outage. Some lights above the Orioles dugout go out. And the game, there's a 2-hour delay while they try to get the lights back on. It's very confusing for folks who are there at the ballpark, many of whom we've spoken to, because it looks more than bright enough to play. But the game ends up getting postponed. And almost immediately, this rumor starts to go around that this is what allegedly took place. Ripken is on his way to the ballpark, realizes he's forgotten something. Hilariously, in a lot of the tellings of the rumor, what he's forgotten is his glove, which does not seem like something Cal Ripken would forget.
Also doesn't seem like something that would be at home. It seems like something that would just be at his locker at all the time or on his hand, everything he does.
Right, exactly. He's probably driving with the glove on. But anyway, whatever the alleged reason, he turns around, he goes back home, he finds his wife Kelly and Kevin Costner in amorous entwine, shall we say? And
shall we say it? Let's say it together, Stugotz. In amorous
twine.
That was beautiful harmony.
Thank you.
So the story goes, he and Costner allegedly get into some kind of physical altercation. Ripken is banged up, not catastrophically, but he realizes, I cannot play tonight. I can't play under these circumstances. So he calls the Orioles, allegedly says, you got to do something about this, maybe suggests the power outage thing, or maybe they come up with it on their own. Somebody, according to several tellings we've heard, takes, quote, a set of hedge clippers, cuts the power to the lights at Oriole Park. That's what makes the lights go out. That's why there were not outages anywhere else in the area. By the next day, he's fine. They play a doubleheader. Supposedly, nobody's the wiser.
That rumor.
How much time did you guys spend investigating this? How many episodes are there? How thorough is the reporting? How close do you get to the truth?
We have been working on this for about a year. We have spoken to tons of sources, many of whom had never been heard of us before. At the moment, it's either going to be 5 or 6 episodes, depending on a couple of potential developments. And I will say, I'm not going to give anything away, but I do feel like we have reached a pretty provocative answer about the truth of what happened that night.
Did you get Costner or Ripken?
I will also say they have thus far declined our interview requests. We, of course, we have gone out to them through multiple avenues, also to Kelly, and we feel very strongly that it would not be the most complete story possible without their input. And so if they're watching / listening, we'd love to talk. But we do have, there is some interesting backstory with the rumor, particularly in Costner's case, which is that he at one point went on Fox Sports Radio to do a very long interview about it with a couple guys named Chuck Booms and Kevin Kiley back in 2001. Spoke at length about the rumor. In a very mysterious plot twist, we actually tracked down what is apparently the only existing recording of that conversation, thought we had access to it, and then had that access revoked at the last minute. I'm not saying that was anything other than just what I've said, but it added to the soup of mystique that exists around this.
Well, what do you think happened there? You're not saying anything happened there, but what is your theory, or what is your what is your juiciest accusation, if we were speaking totally hypothetically?
Speaking with complete hypothetical speculative energy, I think it's probably a situation where one of two things happened. Less cynically, it's probably just a simple situation where they realized it would probably piss off Kevin Costner to send it to us, and they didn't want to do that. More cynically, it's a land grab in podcasting right now, and if you've got juicy audio that you didn't even realize you had until a couple podcasters came along asking for something that's been gathering dust in a CD jewel case for 25 years, maybe you think to yourself, wait a minute, we should do something with this. Hypothetically, again, speaking hypothetically, I would imagine it's one of those two things, but perhaps it contains even hotter goss than we imagine it might. I don't know.
Which one of the two do you like, Dan?
Well, I thought it was going to be you getting in here and saying, when I realized I was getting to the bottom of something close on this story, when I realized other people were on the trail, because I thought it was going to be you who ended up getting that sound because of the valuable podcast terrain that there is.
It's for sale, Sam.
And what would you tell us? What was in that conversation, Sam, for the people who do not know?
Well, so one of the interesting things about this is because we did not get access to that tape, we've heard that we have one clip that was played of it on Hannity and Combs, because after the interview aired, this is the type of territory you get into when you start investigating a story like this. So after the Costner interview aired, it became a bit of a story, and Hannity and Combs, Sean Hannity and Alan Combs, had Chuck Booms, one of the hosts of the Fox Sports Radio show, on their TV show to talk to them about it. Like, what just happened? You repeated this rumor, and then all of a sudden you've got Kevin Costner on the phone for over an hour. What is this? And so as part of that, they played one of the clips from the Costner interview, and we were able to license that one clip through the old Fox News archives. But that's actually the only one that we've heard. Now, according to Chuck Booms, the interview was very damaging for Costner, because he called in to say, I've never even been to their house. There's no truth to any of this. But when they started to ask him a bunch of very basic sort of factual questions, like, if you supposedly don't know them very well, why have you been photographed at all these games with them? Why do you sometimes take ground balls at shortstop with Cal before Orioles games? Where were you on the night of August 14th, 1997? You're a figure of some note. Presumably there would be a record of this. He, again, all this is according to Chuck's recollection of the conversation, did not have answers for those questions. So it's one of those situations where Costner, or maybe Costner's people, I guess, get it in their mind that they should try to get out in front of this and end up fanning the flames instead.
Where are some of the places that the reporting took you that you found most interesting, illuminating, different, and allowed you to tell a more macro story? Because I'm assuming that you go into a project like this for a year, it's not just to get to the bottom of a silly rumor.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, as I've already referenced, we talked to Chuck Booms, who, in addition to being a key part of the story, was just sort of an interesting figure in sort of the types of sports talk radio that were very popular at the time. And he told us all kinds of interesting stories about what it was like to talk about sports in an environment where it was harder to fact check things than it is now. And
I assume that they could be irresponsible in what it is that they were doing, and the only thing that gives it legs is Costner calling in. Otherwise, they can't actually talk about it that Costner helped keep the story alive by trying
It
to
was the glory days.
trying to deny it. Yes. Stugotz loved those days when you could just say whatever you wanted and there was no social media consequence.
Yeah, if only we could go back to those days. So that was pretty fascinating. We end up going to one of the things we do in the show is we look up police reports from we looked at a month, basically, the night of the outage and a month leading up to it, to see if the police were summoned to what was then the Ripken property at that time. And we end up then going to visit the property. And, one of the things that was interesting for Mac and I to discover as lifelong Cal Ripken fans is that this guy, who was by repute the blue-collar superhero of the world, lived in what was recently listed on Zillow as having 13 bathrooms and 2 4-car garages. It's so big you can't even see the house from the road. Now, obviously, a guy having a big house does not prove that anything untoward happened, but it is one of those important moments as a fan in realizing that there's the story that's built for you to consume, and then there's the reality of the life somebody lives. In a more concrete sense, we ended up actually getting a guided tour of the entire electrical system of Oriole Park at Camden Yards, including, and this comes out a little bit later in the series, but we actually end up seeing the control panel that would have been used to initiate this fake power outage. If that is indeed what allegedly transpired. And that was pretty powerful for me from both an investigative standpoint, but also from a personal standpoint, because that control panel is in the back of the press box. And I used to sit at Orioles games with my dad in section 43 at Oriole Park, which is just to the left of the press box. And I would stare, as much as I was watching the game, I wanted to be one of the guys in the press box. And so it was pretty powerful to me, this idea that this alleged incident would have been initiated in the room, like literally where the stories are made, leading, of course, to this story that we are now investigating. So it was a moment for me of realizing, like, I have moved to the other side of the veil, but at what cost?
Well, what were you trying to do, right? Because you guys are going on a journey, and it's 5 or 6 installments. It'll come out every Monday. And part of it is getting to the truth. But with these kinds of dedications, when you turn your life over to a project like this, you're trying to accomplish what? You're following the story, but what is the story that you were thinking about telling, and how was it different or not different than the one you tell?
Yeah. I mean, I think a big thing for both of us is this idea that for us growing up as fans, and I think for a lot of people, particularly, not that sports are only for, cis hetero men, but as cis hetero men, sports and the Orioles in particular were kind of the way that we could access feelings. And it's what gave us land to talk about and express these big, overwhelming ideas that would otherwise have consumed us, and sometimes did probably consume us. And not just the team, but the person, the figure at the center of that was Cal Ripken Jr. He was the closest thing in my life that has ever existed to a god embodied on this earth. And I have realized as I've gotten older in my life, and my thought with myself was, I love this man. I love this man. And what I realized in the course of doing this project is I needed him. And need is different than love. And I would like to move away from need in my life and into a place of love. And I think it's been a very powerful process to realize if we don't need a particular mythology to buoy us and propagate us forward through our lives anymore, how can we move out of that into something more all-encompassing, which is love? And in order to do that, you have to look at something in a much more holistic and human way. And that's really, I think, what the project is about.
You won't tell us if the rumor's true, right? I have to ask you, but you won't tell us because you need the payoff in installments, correct?
That is an accurate diagnosis of my plan for this interview. Yes.
You can ask me, Dan, if you want. I mean,
okay, yes.
It sounds like Stugotz knows.
Yeah, and I have the interview. I mean, the whole
okay,
thing.
You have the Kylie and Booms interview that you secured.
Stugotz, what's your Venmo? I'll send you the money right now.
I mean, now you're talking my language. I take Sal as well, Sam. All right. I mean,
what do you think happened? Because Stugotz always wants to believe in the worst in people, and so I want to believe that the streak was kept alive. Because yes, Kevin Costner.
Funny that you're putting that on Stugotz while you're confirming that belief yourself.
If I had to guess here, Cal Ripken just had a gut feeling about something was going on with his wife back in the house, and he didn't turn around to get a mitt.
Okay, he went to get revenge.
Well, to see if
justice.
To see, if what he was feeling was true.
Yes, hell bent on justice. He returned home like John Wick to kick the holy hell out of a traitorous Kevin Costner. Yes, I believe that's what's
and
true.
my investigation has not totally absolved Dennis Quaid. I will tell you that right now.
Okay. Man, it sounds like we need a 7th episode.
Randy Quaid has been absolved.
Yes,
he would not be allowed anywhere on the Ripken property. Dennis Quaid.
Yes, half the Quaid clan is removed from blame. Although I have to say, just since we're talking about this part of it, something that is very interesting that a lot of people who just hear the rumor don't totally clock at first is by the time this happened in 1997, Cal had already broken Gehrig's record. He was well past it. In fact, it was 1995, September 6, 1995, against the then California Angels that he broke the record. A game that I was at, and which was a night of total emotional transcendence for me. But it raises this really interesting question, I think, because, if you're an Orioles fan, the idea that ego or a sense of personal ambition would have had anything to do with Cal's pursuit of this consecutive game streak didn't even enter your head. But there were people from outside Baltimore who thought to themselves, he's lost a step at shortstop. They've moved him to third base. He's not really hitting the way he once did. He's already broken the record. Why is he still going out there every day? What's the point of this? And if you're from Baltimore, you're like, well, it's because it's the right way to do things. And if you don't understand that, then you, sir, are not a man. But doing a project like this with the benefit of hindsight, you're forced to actually contend with the idea, what do we think this was really about? And isn't it sort of interesting that he's aligned with Kevin Costner in this regard, who was sort of, as one writer puts it in the show, people thought of and perhaps still think of Kevin Costner as this kind of walking Americana figure, this guy who represents that sort of honorable working man who has been through a lot and yet still persists. And that's what Ripken represented for a lot of people too. But, Kevin Costner's this rich celebrity guy who has not put in the kind of blue collar hours that a lot of the folks whose image he's sort of performing in have. And so what do we make of the gap between those things, especially when the actual people who had to diagnose and resolve this power outage were those guys, and nobody's ever talked to them about what it was like to work behind the scenes at a baseball game. Nobody's ever, asked them, was this hard? Did you have to deal with people asking you a bunch of insane questions, when you're, sweating your balls off at the top of a light standard in the late August, in the middle of August, trying to fix this thing. And so it brings up all these other questions that I think are much more relevant than the truth, which again I do think we've found a pretty provocative answer to.
Sam,
not unknowingly vague.
Right. Not going to tell you how to do your job. Okay. You're clearly excellent at your job. I would just tell you, Sam, you might want to sniff around Kevin Bacon. I mean, it's a little sniff. Okay.
Yes. While you're getting to all your hoity-toity ideas about love, and you realize that your fandom is a lie and your heroes are liars and cheat, sniff around Kevin Bacon. Okay.
Okay.
Or David Caruso.
Okay,
Either one.
you got to be careful with Caruso.
Can we toss Tom Berenger in there while we're doing it?
Why not?
Steaming Lothario Tom Berenger, making his way over to the Ripken
someone to
house.
watch over who, Tom?
Rutger Hauer was knocking on the door.
Corbin
Yeah.
Burnson.
Let's get them all in there.
Wait, Sam, if this is true, if indeed it's true, because you clearly care about it, right? Should the streak be intact? Should we get rid of it?
Oh,
It's
really?
over.
An asterisk?
You want an asterisk?
Should we put an
Yes.
asterisk?
Oh,
You
on
are
the
so
thing?
sports radio. I hate you.
No,
Sam perked up.
let's
Sam
just
perked up.
let's just put Kevin Costner's ass
Yeah.
on it. Not an
asterisk.
asterisk.
I'm not going to count it, Sam.
It's an ass trick.
Yeah, right. Let's leave off the Tarisk and really cut to what America wants to see.
Sam, thank you for being on
he
with
wants to
us.
answer.
Oh, he wants to answer.
No, yeah,
Go
you know,
ahead.
he was
Go
going to
ahead.
give away the entire podcast
Go
series
ahead.
to you.
Go ahead. He wants to answer. Go ahead.
Well, I would in response to that just say that, as regardless of where our story goes, I do think it is important to remember that Cal had already broken the record by the time this incident allegedly occurred. Whether or not we should reconsider why we're so attached to what we think the streak means, that I will leave maddeningly open-ended.
Well, I heard Wesley Snipes too, just so that we can have some diversity here. I heard
We
Wesley
were very
Snipes.
clearly going for a certain thing.
Yeah.
Glad you
just
called
got a
us out
text
on
from
Luke
it.
Diamond
Jim Carrey
Phillips
coming
might have
in.
been
You
there
were
as
getting
well.
ready to tackle this as well. Huh?
And while we're at
Benjamin
it,
Bratt.
I don't know that Ellen wasn't there as well. All right, we'll see you later. Thank you, Sam. We'll talk to you.
Thank you, guys. Much appreciated.
See you, Sam.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Send my
Thanks, guys.
apologies to Mac. I'm sorry about that miscommunication.
No worries at all. I texted him. We're all good, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys. I'm a huge fan of the show, and we really appreciate it.
Oh,
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Cheers. Take it easy.
Very excited, Stugotz.
What happened?
Hugely excited. Not just because the Miami Heat play against the Boston Celtics tonight, and the Miami Heat
Big
look like one of the best teams in the NBA, and the Celtics look like, if the 7-game hyperventilation is allowed to happen, like they're falling apart. And the reason I'm excited today is because the Celtics have had, before playing the Magic, a players only meeting.
First of the season.
Way to
Let's
go. And they're
Yes.
1-0 post-player only meeting.
They
How about that?
crushed
That's how
the
you know it worked.
Magic. Yes. Marcus Smart said publicly, you guys aren't passing enough. Players only meeting. The Celtics are back.
They are.
Are equipment people allowed in a players only meeting? Like, is it just the 15 players?
What part of players
Nah, I
only
feel like
are
it's just
you
no
not
coaches.
understanding?
It should just be called a no coaches
It's
meeting.
I agree.
players only. It was called by Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. No one else is allowed in there unless you're a player.
I feel like
That's
equipment
it.
guy can hang around.
The guy who's doing laundry is allowed to still do his job in and amongst the players only meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, put it on the poll at
Just a fly on
Levitard
the
Show.
wall.
I think I'm with you on this. Should the players only meeting be changed to the coaches not allowed
Yeah.
meeting? Because I believe there might be a janitor in there, or who knows? Like there's a valet around to get them whatever it is they want.
Those are two separate meetings. There's a players only meeting and a no coaches meeting. They're not the same meeting.
We've never heard publicly reported the no coaches meeting.
That's right.
It's just the players only
well,
meeting.
it's less common.
Are you guys suggesting that a non-player has been in a players only
yes,
meeting?
yes, like team
Get out
employees.
of
Absurd.
here.
That's absurd.
No.
I feel like the public relations guy has wandered in. What do you think?
No.
You're
No,
saying,
I'd say
They
that's the
kick
last
him right
person you
out.
want in the players only meeting.
but I'm saying just because he's around all the time.
He needs plausible deniability from the players
Well,
only meeting.
Hold on a sec. Someone has to be in there to tell everyone else that there's been a players only meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So this needs to be documented for the record.
How else would we know about it?
Well, the players come out and talk about it.
Yeah,
They're not
they-
sworn to secrecy,
they
right?
tell their
come out-
agents, their agents
hey,
tell
you
the
know what we
press.
did today? We had a players only meeting. And then their agent says, I know I was there with you because it's not actually just a players only meeting. Like,
kind of thought this was like a blood oath situation.
It's just
like
get
no
the
one talked
coaches the
about
fuck
it.
out of here. Like, get them out of here. That's what it is.
So we can say what we want to say.
If there's a blood oath, then how do we know about all of them? Why is it like the greatest show in all of sports sports is the players only meeting.
Is that the greatest show in
It
all of
is.
sports?
It
The
is.
Players
It's
only
a
meeting?
production, you
Wait
know,
a minute,
like
Not like the Super Bowl halftime show.
no.
I'd love to be in just one players only meeting. Oh, it would be great. I'd choose it over anything. I think.
feel like you'd be disappointed.
I would.
Yes, they just like
You know what? Because of how infrequently we hear players criticizing each other, I actually think it would be quite interesting for like Marcus Smart to really have a go at Jason Tatum in a players only meeting.
So you think the players only meeting is the only time, as opposed to like fighting on the court or yelling or getting into whatever altercations are formed from clubhouse resentments? You think that that's like an honest, safe space,
Yes.
like where
Yes,
we all gather
I
together
agree.
for you view it as sports therapy. Like, look, here's where we're going to be the most honest version of anything we ever are. That's what you're alleging. This is a place
Yeah.
for total honesty, and that honesty is going to hurt.
Because even on the court, there is always the recognition that there's 20,000 people and cameras aimed at you. And so you kind of know, all right, at some point I have to calm down. I have to cool it. Marcus Smart can blow his lid and still, you know, like not have any public perception drop as a result of it. He's going to have a go at whoever, and it's a safe space.
It's an airing out. That's what it is.
Airing of
say what you
grievances.
have to say. No coaches are here to judge you. Just say what it is you want to say.
But Mark has already told all of us.
He did.
And then they had
He didn't wait for the meeting.
He didn't wait for the players only meeting. He told us, hey, these fuckers aren't passing the ball enough.
Poor Ime Udoka, the coach of the Celtics, who's 7 games in and is already the subject of a no coaches get the F out meeting.
I have a trivia question that risks embarrassing all of you. You may impress me here, but we are a sports show of some international renown, and I have now gone from not caring what the names of stadiums are anymore at all to I am caring less and less about the coaches. And I ask you guys this question because you just mentioned the new Boston Celtics coach. Can anyone in this room of sports expertise tell me the name of the Oklahoma City Thunder coach? Because
wow,
I'm bare and naked and vulnerable in front of you. I have wait a minute. Is Jessica cheating? I see her using her fingertips at a computer.
Stugotz.
I wasn't gonna say
No,
it.
that's embarrassing.
I wasn't gonna say it. I wanted to be able to fact check.
OKC Thunder head coach is the Google search.
my
That
God.
is appalling.
Unbelievable.
I wasn't about to
Unbelievable.
get on the mic and say it.
Stugotz.
I was just, why would I know that? Of course I don't know that.
Appalling.
I don't know who any NBA head
Appalling.
coaches
We're playing
are.
a game.
Wait, okay, so hold on. This is staggering what has just happened here. After last night's team dinner, where you guys went to Flanigan's because they wanted to introduce you to Miami, and you guys had a wonderful team dinner last night at Flanigan's. I want to get the menu critique in a moment. Was it everything we said that it was? Because the nachos, did you go home with a green cup? I have a lot of questions about what you guys did last night. But right after that, right in front of your faces, you guys just caught her cheating.
Well, it's not only that, is that now, because I had to verify the cheating, I knew the last name.
You
No,
did
you
not
didn't.
I
have
didn't
to
know the first.
verify the cheating.
I knew I did have to verify the cheating. And so I knew the
No, you
last
didn't.
name
Don't believe
of
you.
the Oklahoma City Thunder's head coach.
No, you didn't.
Liar.
And now this is happening as a result of me
It's-
having looked at her computer screen.
But take one for the betterment of the team here, you too, Whittingham, because you would have been the great answerer of the question that none of us otherwise would have
So
known.
smart.
Yes, you would have gotten to be the first one with your hand up in class who would have gotten the winning thing. But for the show, catching her cheating is amazing. Look, I mean, what were you doing just typing in the middle of what it is that I was asking when everyone fear swept through? To be honest, I know that Whittingham knew the answer because fear swept through everyone else in the room, but Whittingham was like, oh, I've got this.
Yeah, Hermione Granger over here with his hand up. But I never had the intention to say it out loud because obviously I wouldn't know that. Like
Right.
I've never been someone who's come into the studio and said, I know about the Oklahoma City Thunder head coach.
It provided a smokescreen for me because it allowed me to go to Google, and I now know the name of the head
Samesies.
coach. How about that?
Well, do you know how to pronounce it?
Nope.
Because
Mark.
Mark Dagenau.
You didn't know that.
I did know that.
He did know
I
it.
also know that JB Bickerstaff is the coach of the Cavs.
What about the Timberwolves?
Ooh.
What about him?
Oh God! Oh, it's the guy who was Nick
Timberwolves.
Nurse's assistant in Toronto. Chris.
I think his last name is a bird.
Chris Finch. Chris Finch. Come
An
on!
excellent clue.
Wow.
What a strange game
The
show.
Finch bird.
What a
Probably
strange
go canary there.
What a strange game show where you asked the question meant to stop him. Then
I wasn't sure though. I was like, I think it's a bird.
Chris Cardinal.
you weren't sure. You weren't sure a finch was a bird.
Chris Blue Jay.
Stugotz, I want to ask you as I talk to America here. I want to talk to you directly, America, in these hopeless, staggering, we want to fight everyone times. You guys yesterday on social media, and this was funny to see happen, Stugotz, because social media is this wonderfully corrosive, addictive thing that is super cruel and super mean and entertaining
Evil.
and funny and evil and great and awful.
Mm-hmm.
And what you heard yesterday on our show was a rare, live, honest sports moment where I, public sports cynic, was genuinely stunned at the news that Aaron Rodgers, someone whose work I admire, during our show, my response to that was to be immediately disappointed, to not want to believe it, to think that someone, I'm 52, Stugotz.
Right.
Like, I'm not naive about, oh, my sports heroes, they're soaked in mythology, and I'm watching what's happening with Brett Favre. That's $5, Stugotz.
It absolutely.
I
is.
turned the mic off.
I know, but it was so loud.
I heard it. I still
heard
heard
it in
it.
Dan's
Well,
mic.
no.
That's the fine.
I played by the rules.
It's $5.
I turned the mic off.
Stugotz, it's $5.
I turned the mic off.
Yeah,
we
but
heard it.
We all,
I turned it off.
the spirit of the rule is you can't interrupt the show with something
Sorry.
disgusting. It's
All
not
right.
just pressing the cough
I
button.
was
It's
getting it out.
it's-
I mean, all right, I got $5.
It was more
on me.
mysterious that way because it was like a distant noise of like,
I turned the mic off.
Well, but he
and
just-
the voice sounds fantastic because I
it
did
doesn't
it. I
sound-
metric ton of
not
phlegm.
great.
it's just so
I thought there was
unpleasant.
thunder outside.
It's so bad, Stugotz. Like, I don't know. It's the
Great.
most you thing in the world to not take care of the only weapon you have. Like, it's the most you thing in the world.
I'm giving you a 20. I expect 15
Your
back.
voice, please just send it to a fund. We need to create a fund where Stugotz gets some sort of voice care because we need it for the next few years, and it's deteriorating at a rate of speed that is unhealthy, obvious to
He
the
should be
audience.
guzzling throat coat tea. Instead, he guzzles heaters.
We need.
I have some tea.
Yeah,
we
but
need
you
it.
need like to have like 5 of them a day.
Okay.
We need his voice. And okay, he agrees to
Sure.
terms, and he will, be smoking during the breaks as soon as
5 a day.
we stop talking. But so you guys yesterday heard in real time the news delivered to me that not only was Aaron Rodgers, not only did he test positive, not only does it appear that he was unvaccinated, but also on top of that, it appeared that he lied to us or tried to camouflage the truth in semantics with immunization instead of vaccination. And now many of you are turning to me and for some reason thinking that I'm attached to Aaron Rodgers because I do love his style of play, but I thought I had shown you over the years that I very much can separate the art from the artist. What I admire about Aaron Rodgers is his greatness. What I've said to you again and again is a craftsman unlike any I've ever seen at the position, a mastery of a very difficult position, a wonder to watch work as an artist. And I've enjoyed talking to him because I've found him interesting. And I tend to gravitate toward the weirdos, the John Amichis, the Ricky Williams, the Aaron Rodgers. And so here we are yesterday in real time. And what you heard, honestly, was surprise, disappointment, and dismay. And immediately you guys went to the comparison shopping of let's see if Le Batard does this the way that he did Kyrie Irving.
They love to do that.
Well, let's backtrack a second on Kyrie Irving, because what I felt a lot on Kyrie Irving was you telling me, call him a name. Like people thinking I was defending Kyrie Irving. So people, because I understand, I'm willing to listen to another position compassionately at how, for example, a black man grows up in this country and reaches a point where he distrusts everything about the country vaccine scientist, everything. I was trying to view it through his prism. Like, how do we understand, instead of just bashing these people, calling them clowns, loons, dopes, whatever. You backed me into a corner last week and you said, say something bad about Kyrie Irving. That's how I had been apparently defending Kyrie Irving, even though I called him reckless when this started, because you guys want me to call him names. And what he did was reckless, and what Aaron Rodgers did was reckless. And go ahead and smear them both as much as you want in the same sphere. I would say one of them does Flat Earth, the other one does State Farm commercials, but this ain't about race for me,
Right.
or not understanding the difference between Aaron Rodgers and Kyrie Irving. For me, it is often, like it is in sports, Stugotz, do you like a dude or don't you? Do you just like him? And there are a number of reasons that go into whether you do or you don't like him. Like, I don't know why you like Baker Mayfield and not Odell Beckham in Cleveland. I don't know why you're sitting there saying that's Baker Mayfield is not at fault there, but Odell Beckham is, even though I've seen Odell Beckham be great. I haven't seen Baker Mayfield be great.
True.
And I've rarely seen a wide receiver who's been great. I've rarely seen him blamed for having a great quarterback. Like, that's kind of on Baker Mayfield. But as we talk about all this stuff, Stugotz, and it becomes something that is annoying, like it makes me want to fight like we're so often fighting, even in the playground of all of this silliness. What happened yesterday was disappointing to me because Aaron Rodgers was selfish the same way that I think Kyrie Irving is selfish, and many of you hear judgment and selfish because you're freedom fighters, or you think Kyrie Irving's a freedom fighter, and you look at me and you say, selfish, bleep off, bleep you. You don't respect me. Mm-hmm. And I get why the other side, Stugotz, is tired of people like me or Hollywood or whoever else telling them what they can do with their children, with their opinions, I get the other side. I'm sitting here, I've been politicized, personally politicized in this little stupid sports sphere, hijacked by Breitbart at every turn, because I espouse opinions over 20 years to you that have been what? In this sphere, controversial, but
fair.
Well, just compassionate, basically.
Yes.
Like, I'm not here to call Kyrie Irving or Aaron Rodgers clowns or dopes. Or you made me last week. You said, I mean,
I did.
You said,
I didn't make you, but I
you
mean,
understand what I'm
right.
saying, though, as it regards Kyrie Irving. Whatever stance I took, all I'm trying to do is see how do we arrive at all these different positions, because we're all fighting all over these parts of the country, generationally, culturally, blacks and whites. And so you throw in my face, treat Kyrie the same way you do Aaron Rodgers. Man, bleep off. Like, honest to God, I'm looking at both of them and I'm like, come on, God damn it. Like just, yeah, I get it. You're free thinkers. You want to think independently. You don't trust government. You want to be contrarian. You want to be deep and introspective, and you don't want to just follow the mainstream masses. I totally get that. But both of them, like, deeply disappointing to me as sports figures right now, even as someone who can separate, Stugotz, the art from the artist, because what I respect about Aaron Rodgers is what he does at work.
Right.
It's all I care about. I don't want to judge him as a leader, as a societal free thinker, or any of these things. He's just an athlete I gravitated to because, here's an interesting person who seems different.
But I understand fans who want you to treat Aaron the same way you treated Kyrie. I mean, I don't even think it's a bad thing. You've earned the right, like Dan, over 20 years of doing this and longer in the newspaper, where people know that you're going to be fair most of the time. You're going to be thoughtful most of the time, just about every time. But I'm okay with fans making sure that we treat Aaron Rodgers, someone we have a relationship with because he's been on the show, the same way we treated Kyrie Irving.
And that's fair.
Yes.
And I don't object to that. What I object to that is what you got yesterday from us was the honest moment where I learned it before I processed it.
Right.
Like, I was legitimately disappointed. I was surprised and I was disappointed. And it took me a minute to sort of formulate. And you're right there, though. As soon as I'm trying to sort of figure out, well, how do I feel about this? You land with, make sure it's the same as Kyrie Irving. Bring it with the same intensity. Let's fight about the virus. Let's fight around sports. Let's fight about white. Let's fight about black. Let's And it's like, no, I just want to fool around with this. This is a stupid sports thing. I just want to come in and fool around. I don't want to be talking about this vaccine shit every day, dividing everybody more. I want to be the escape hatch where you guys come because you don't want to talk about the bullshit that clouds your daily life when you're not unhappy at home because of the pandemic and work.
But you're also, when people ask you to do that, you're also saying as a human being, you're not allowed to take someone's priors and apply them to the future. Like, you do think differently about Aaron Rodgers than you do about Kyrie Irving. And that, of course, would affect your perspective going forward. Like, if someone I really liked and respected all of a sudden came out against the vaccine or against something that I strongly believe in, then it would take me a second to get to fully condemning it because, yeah, you do have a you don't have to apologize for that.
Exactly.
Like any human being who has priors with someone would kind of have to go through some bargaining before they get to wanting to rip the guy publicly on a very large platform.
The appearance is this show has a relationship with Aaron Rodgers. You have a relationship with Aaron Rodgers. You're not friends with him, but you do have a relationship. I was out in Tahoe. He gave me a big hug. That's the perception. So when this,
that does not constitute a relationship.
But there is a relationship with the show. He likes the show, and we like Aaron Rodgers.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes.
But we've liked Aaron Rodgers because he graces the show. Not everyone's doing that. He comes on,
correct,
and he lends us he lends McAfee. He lends us a hand. Man, I've been on the phone with Aaron Rodgers where he's like bleep ESPN. All these guys are taking their brands wherever it is they want to take them. And Aaron Rodgers is also friends with Portnoy. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know the things that made Aaron Rodgers distrustful the way he is. We don't know anything about what's going on in his family, Stugotz. I don't know why he's that kind of distrustful, just like I can't possibly understand how Kyrie Irving arrives at a place where, as a black man, America has done so much harm to him that he thinks that now he's fighting on behalf of the voiceless and nobody understands specifically what his cause is. That's where we are arguing about this crud in this country. And what I would just say to you is that I feel like I do a pretty good job of separating art from artist. I like him. What I respect about him, and this is not a loved one, Stugotz, all over America, you know how many families are disintegrating because they've just looked at other loved ones and been like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, we're not on the same side.
Right.
We never talked about this stuff, but
you feel like
families. No, what I'm saying is that I don't feel like that about sports figures. You know how I reacted to Tiger Woods. He didn't betray me. These are not honest relationships. I have an honest relationship with Ricky Williams. These are not. Aaron Rodgers has called the show a few times. I don't vacation with him. I've never seen him in person.
But you've also, you like who he is as a public personality, though. You've enjoyed talking to him, and you're able to, the most recent South Beach session that we had with Aaron Rodgers was you kind of asking him about some very personal things, and he was open and provided a really good interview. And so you're kind of contrasting that with this. You're going, hell. And it takes a second.
It was disappointing in real time, surprised and disappointing for that reason. And when I step back from it, I can say to you, I like Aaron Rodgers' work more than any quarterback I've ever seen in the history of the position.
Mm-hmm.
I've enjoyed his personality when he deigns to lend his presence to our show and be introspective and talk about vulnerable things like love and going to an institute to do work on whatever his patterns and his family issues are because he felt like he needed therapy. And he tries to think counterculture from what I've seen in our interviews, 5 or 6 of them. This may sound to people like I'm stepping back from Aaron Rodgers. This was just disappointing. And I said it in real time as you delivered the news to me.
Right.
I was surprised and I was like, oh man. Because for me, we don't have that relationship with Kyrie Irving. And yet still I get viewed as defender and apologist for Kyrie Irving because I won't call him a dipshit for thinking the earth is flat.
I took care of that for you.
I know, but everybody was doing that consistently as a sports show. I'm the one who arrives after you can easily drag someone and say, okay, now let's talk about it from this perspective. Because we can all do that one. It's the easiest thing in the world to just shit on Aaron Rodgers yesterday. What a fool, liar and fool, cheat. It's the new A-Rod. It's the new A-Rod. Will chase you in the modern day through the parking lot, yelling as the angry mob, and in 10 years, nobody will care. We'll make you a broadcaster on every network.
I do think the lying is why people came down very anti-Aaron Rodgers yesterday, because people have their own opinions on things, but as soon as you lie about something, everyone hates a phony and a faker, and that's what he did. And I think, the punishment should fit the crime, and the Packers should have to forfeit all their wins this season.
Really?
I think a lot of
like
people.
that.
Yeah,
Tanking.
I'm not going to say who, but I got a text not soon after that noticed that Aaron Rodgers has Seattle on the schedule soon, and the way that he violated this protocol might mean 2 weeks. So yes, we can do.
Especially games that they won by 10 points or on.
Which is really the only thing that matters, correct? Like if we get back to just the play. Because we got there quick yesterday, too. How quickly did we get, he's not playing against Kansas City? Like, for whatever it is, our consternations are about.
Went to +8 in a hurry.
I got a bet in at +0.5. I moved 8 points.
I mean, this was the most ridiculous thing was, Dan, you didn't have time to react to any of this because all your producers were in this room on the Sportsbook app.
It was amazing.
And they weren't giving you any information to
exactly
react to.
right.
They were just putting in their bets for the Chiefs.
It went to 8s.
That is exactly what happened.
I think we need to have a producers-only meeting back here because that was just really
That wouldn't have,
uncalled
if
for.
Jessica had been here, that would not have happened yesterday because that is absolutely what had happened. Now, she might have cheated at something else yesterday.
Oh, come on.
Jessica, that was terrible.
I wasn't going to say the name.
You still wait until Dan provides the punchline until you Google it.
But he doesn't know. He's over there. He can't see my computer screen.
He is the orchestrator of the
knows.
game.
Yes.
He's come across the name of the Thunder coach. That's the point of the game.
When else do you look over my shoulder at my
Wait a
computer,
second.
Witty?
Oh, wow.
You asked.
Whoa.
Don't
Spying on me all day?
Don't turn
Oh,
the
my
tables.
good God.
Don't turn the tables now just because you were caught.
They've
You
been
watch
turned.
me online
Producers
shop
only
while I
meeting.
work?
They have
Is that what's
been
going
turned.
on here?
The
Also-
turns have been taken.
Why do we
Right.
turn tables?
Why do we turn tables?
Can't we just move all the shit on the table? I feel like that'd be easier.
Put it on the poll
No.
at Levitard Show, Chris. Why do you know why we turn tables at Levitard Show?
Frankly, Dan, I've been in a meat fog since last night around 8 p.m. We
Mog.
had like 6 slabs of ribs. We had how many wings, Tony? 40 wings.
That's it, huh?
Child's play.
A person, Stugotz.
Oh, okay.
It was a lot of food.
Well, we're about to have some food come in. The Moss event that we're doing on Saturday, and I think it's sold out, mosslevitard.com. If it's not, we haven't mentioned it much because we want to keep it kind of small, just a few hundred people or so, just a dirty party where
Just a hang.
Juju Gotti is going to
drink.
perform. And the croquetas that we're getting, you guys are going to taste. Is that going to be something we're going to do on air or because I think people need to know, and I think people need to know this is considered the finest of the croquetas anywhere in Miami.
We're gonna make some tent out of it. We're gonna put it on YouTube probably.
Tony says it's a YouTube exclusive. And we also should mention this week we hit 100,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel.
Yay.
Levitard and Friends.
Way to go.
Subscribe.
Juju's getting a plaque.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's good.
Yeah.
We think.
We want
great.
more though. I'm
We-
with you.
yeah,
Dan.
Yeah, we
Not
want
good
more.
enough.
Yeah, let's
Not
put a
good
zero
enough.
behind that, making a million.
It's a brand new channel. It's our first benchmark, guys.
Everybody
Like,
that's
we're doing
subscribed,
great.
text 5 friends right now. Tell them to subscribe.
Yeah.
Am I right, Tony? Fist bump.
Am I understanding correctly that the legend himself, Paul Flanigan, was present last night?
No,
Paul?
we got Jimmy Flanigan.
Oh, Jimmy
last night.
The
Flanigan.
legend
That's a
himself.
fine-
The legend
Who is
himself.
Paul, who is Paul
PF.
Flanigan?
I think it's his dad.
Who is
I'm pretty
you
certain.
think
I think
you're
he
pretty
was Papa
certain?
Flanigan.
Oh, no.
He's about to hit everyone
Joe
with a
I think
look
it's
it up.
Joe.
photo.
Look it up.
Joe-
Look it up.
Joe
Look it up.
Flanigan.
Yeah, maybe the great granddad. Check
Oh,
it out.
here we go. Yes, now
There's
he's
a
gonna.
Paul Flanigan
Yes,
in the
please go to
family somewhere. You'll find
ancestry.com.
him.
You'll find it
I
eventually.
have
Yes.
a Paul Flanigan who's a chief compliance officer in the Gainesville area on
Boom.
LinkedIn.
Yep.
What a
Told you.
Maybe
fraud.
he's the chief compliance
Wait,
officer
hold
for
on.
Flanagan's.
Hold on. Are you allowed to do what Stugotz?
CCO.
Are you allowed? He's going to try and scurry away from
Oh,
this
Paulie.
with jokes right and left. He's going to try and push me off, but I'm going to stay right here because I'm not going to let him get away
I
with
feel
what
it.
with what it is that he just did.
Turn the Tables has origins in the game of backgammon in the medieval times.
You're
You cheated.
entrenched.
You Googled that.
Well, I'm not going to move off of
You
this.
haven't moved.
Well,
You really
here,
haven't.
in fact,
Same
why
position.
don't you go ahead and take it from here? So if you want it to be less damaging than it's about to be, why don't you go ahead and take it from here and explain why it is that I'm annoyed with you right now?
I mean, Paul Flanigan, I called him a legend. I was trying to set something up. I'm staying entrenched. I refuse to admit I was wrong. I've stalled the show. I mean,
Okay.
Joseph Big Daddy Flanigan
I was gonna
founded the popular Flanigan Seafood and Bar and Grill chain in South Florida.
Joe Flanigan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, you're still doing the thing. The thing that you're doing, Stugotz, that I'm not going to let you do.
Yes.
Is that you can't do the chummy, the legend, and then get the name wrong.
I wrote it down, too.
Wait a second. Nephew of Big Daddy Flanigan's name is Paul Flanigan. He's quoted in the obit in the Sun Sentinel.
Outstanding. It's a fine.
So you're in a meat fog, and now you're going to chase it with croquetas? That's what's going to happen? Oh, my God. You guys are going to...
We've lost her to the Flanigan Sunset piece.
She Googled that, too, by the way.
That's an impressive obit. Big Daddy Flanigan lived a tremendous life. He was an avid fisherman. He started Big Daddy's liquor store. Then he opened the chain. He has the best ribs in town. Dan, I ate so much last night. And then as soon as I woke up this morning, I remembered we were tasting croquetas all day. Oh, yeah. It's gonna be a big one. Yeah. And then we got mas or mini mas. Menos mas. On
Menos
Saturday,
Miami.
even more croquetas.
Yes.
Big weekend for me.
There is going to be a lot of croqueta tasting. I wanted to get to something, Stugotz, that we didn't get to yesterday, and I found the disproportionate coverage on this to be interesting because I don't think, as I've told you before, that it's the crime that we obsess with in the news, but we obsess with the criminal. So yesterday's story was about Aaron Rodgers, and the most horrific football story of the day that is much more difficult to cover than just here's Aaron Rodgers, liar, cheater, is Henry Ruggs being waived by the Raiders, and you realize, oh, something is coming here. If the Raiders have distanced themselves already on some of the details of what has happened here,
Right.
the Raiders know that something terrible is coming down. And then you read the news that not only was he impaired, whatever it is, twice the legal limit, but that he was going between 155 and 165 miles per hour.
156 is where they clocked him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just you're like, how could you possibly be that reckless? Like, I don't even understand what makes you get to the point where you feel that bulletproof when impaired. I don't even want to sound like your grandfather on this. The need to go 150 miles an hour. And then,
Around the Vegas Strip, you're a 23-year-old rookie. You just came into a lot of money. It's probably the first time in your life you've had a lot of money. You're trying to impress somebody. I mean, I could see it. It doesn't, when you're that age, you don't think anything's going to happen to you. And so I could see a guy thinking, hey, I could drive this car as fast as I want. I'm going to be okay, regardless of what happens.
A loaded gun in the car after that, and you're like, oh, my God, you're just a stereotype for total athletic recklessness.
Yes.
And the result is not only that, because I didn't understand when it said hit the back of the Toyota and the Toyota caught fire, I did not immediately go to what rate of speed was he going. I just went to how did that happen? And then you see the news sort of trickle out and the Raiders we're investigating, and the day later he's waived. And then you read the reports of, oh, wait a minute. This is the height of reckless. And it ended not only with the death of an innocent person, but their dog as well in the car. And you're like, oh my God, this guy just ended his career and I don't know if his life, but his freedom. How can you be that reckless that all the potential in the world, right? Here you are. You're one of the fastest dudes in that league. That offense is exciting because they've got Waller being a Frankenstein coming across the middle, and he takes the lid off your defense.
But you can't see, I'm surprised, because you can't see a 23-year-old first time coming into money, trying to impress someone out in Las Vegas.
No, what you're saying makes sense.
Driving a very nice car, 156 miles per hour down the strip.
Okay,
right?
And you didn't intend this consequence, but man, what a blind spot to have. Because you just lost
100%.
Lost your career and your freedom. I don't know how injured he is or isn't. You get into a collision at that rate of speed, your body's gonna be altered.
He was wearing a neck brace in some of the pictures that have been shown, but he looks to be okay.
Okay, but I don't know how. I don't know what the experience is that anyone has going into something at 156 miles an hour and that thing catching fire and what that does to body tissue, fascia. When you say appears to be okay, I don't know if this ends his career or not, but this is a man who makes his business being one step faster than everyone else. Like a 156 mile an hour crash isn't going to help that.
He's facing felony charges, so I don't know if it ends his career. It's kind of sad to see. There were pictures of him before the accident going into a Vegas Knights hockey game, I believe. And it's just happiness, full of life. And then you see the mugshot, and it's like the life has been sucked out of him. 24 hours.
There is this really gripping sound that I want to play of Derek Carr, the Raiders quarterback. And I think one of the things that's difficult to talk about this story is that it's just something horrific has happened. This dude's life is probably over, but there's not really a lot else to talk about beyond that. But I actually thought Derek Carr gave voice to something that was pretty illuminating.
And it's not his life is not over, but they were talking about 2 to 20 years, and I just don't know when the details come out on something like this. This is not, I don't know the navigations of the legal system on this, but Dante Stallworth, what happened to him down here in Miami, Stugotz, ended up in a light sentence, but there were a number of mitigating factors there that weren't 156 miles per hour. It was a pedestrian who was in the wrong crossing the road. Like, I don't know the legal details on this, but I'm guessing that this is a person who will not be free for a while because this is an act of negligence that is horrific and illegal and will be punished no matter how much money you have, whether it's 2 or 20 years, the way the legal system does this. This is going to end with him not having some of his freedom because he cost a life with his recklessness. But the sound of Derek Carr trying to be a friend and apply compassion and forgiveness to, like, I know none of you want to hear this mistake. You make a mistake at 156 miles an hour drinking like that. Nobody wants to hear that, right? Like, what? That's not a mistake. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do it. Don't get in the
Derek
car.
Carr knows that this person he cares about now has, if not ended his life, caused great, great damage to his life.
Haven't reached out. I will always be here for him. That won't change, and I'll prove that over the course of time to him, not to anybody else. But he needs people to love him right now. He's probably feeling a certain type of way about himself right now, and he needs to be loved. And if no one else will do it, I'll do it.
Man.
Derek Carr has handled a couple terrible situations in recent weeks really well. He just seems to have a good head on his shoulders about stuff.
I mean, he's faith-based, and he is someone that we don't know a lot about at that position other than that, because he's been above average for a while now, and that's an exciting offense. But he seems like a person, because he is faith-based. I know the people who are faith-based in this country feel under attack, who applies compassion and forgiveness where he can to people he loves. That's what support sounds like. It's not easy to support Henry Ruggs today. Like, nobody wants to say anything good about that guy. But if you love him, you want to be a friend to him in
you
what...
can be disappointed and support him at the same time.
But see, inside the mistake of 156 miles an hour is a human being who knows he just threw it all away.
Right.
Like, he's not unaware of that.
And now he has everyone telling him that he threw it all away. And here you have Derek Carr saying, hey, I'm here for you.
And people need friends in times like that. And people need love to heal in times like that. Even though many of you listening to this probably think he doesn't have any right to heal. That he's done something so despicable. May he hurt, may he burn. Ha, 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 ha.
I think that's probably how a lot of people feel about this. But, like, it's really easy to just be like, he made a mistake and he has to, face the consequences, and he is a terrible person, and how could he be so stupid? But it's much harder to, like, look at him as an actual person and show the kind of compassion that Derek Carr spoke to.
I just think what fans do, and they're wrong, by the way, is they try to imagine themselves having the opportunity that Henry Ruggs has in front of him. And they say to themselves, I would never do that. I would never jump in a car. I'd get in a limousine. I would never jump in a car and drive 156 miles per hour while I'm twice the legal limit. Now, easier said than done. You think you wouldn't do it, but you have no idea. And so that's where I think it comes from. It's like squandered opportunities. I wish I had the opportunity you had, Henry Ruggs, and you just blew it.
But there's also a feeling as well that any conversation about Henry Ruggs diminishes the conversation around the victim of this.
Totally.
and that victim's family who is
You're right.
going through an unspeakable tragedy, right? So I think people lose the willingness to forgive when you've killed someone, that person and their dog, that person's family lost a loved one, and it's incredibly hard to prioritize anything else.
I don't think Derek Carr's even speaking to forgiveness. He doesn't use the word forgiveness in that quote. I think he's just speaking to like empathy because now, a person has been killed, but Henry Ruggs, who he knows, he's not asking us to forgive Henry Ruggs or to feel compassion. He himself is saying that he knows him and he feels that way. And I just think it's a really hard thing to do to not to put all the praise on Derek Carr, but to go on a podium and say that when it's like such an unpopular thing right now, like it's true. Henry Ruggs probably feels terrible. And a lot of people think he should feel terrible. And it's hard to have compassion for someone who's made the biggest mistake of their life and killed another person.
But I don't know where the pain and the punishment are sufficient, Stugotz, on stuff like this. Like, obviously, all of us can feel somewhere in there, right? When you see that tragedy as someone who is a sports fan, you look at it, and I think all of us feel some form of, oh, no, he just threw it all away.
Yep.
Like, even as someone else is dying, but you don't know who that person is. That person's not, that person doesn't have a name. That person hasn't lured you to this conversation. It's Henry Ruggs throwing it all away. That's the reason we're talking about this, and not any number of things that happen on the strip like that at that rate of speed. I'm more fascinated by the larger Stugotz. The news stream has been filled with people talking about Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham and his dad. And it's been filled with this Aaron Rodgers talk, but it's much harder to talk about this. 156 miles per hour, somebody threw away their freedom.
Correct.
And killed somebody, but that person's name is not Aaron Rodgers' name. It's not Baker Mayfield's name. And it's not about the crime, Stugotz. It's about the criminal. How famous is the criminal is where the coverage is going to go.
I mean, the team won a World Series, and we didn't talk about it. I mean, think about that. Won a World Series, and no one discussed the Braves winning a World Series yesterday. It was all NFL, and it wasn't on the field.
I saw a baseball
Most
story.
of it was off the field.
I saw a baseball story being discussed on Get Up that wasn't the World Series. It was like something to do with a transaction. I forget what. And I was like, really? It's just gone?
It was Freddie Freeman. That's what it was. Yes, they skipped over the World Series, and they went right to, will Freddie Freeman be back to the Braves next year?
It's not, I mean, like the TV ratings for the final game was like, 14 million people watched? Still a lot of people watching a sporting event. And like, have we just lost the language for baseball? I mean, I never had it. So, but like in terms of actually discussing baseball things, like I thought you had an interesting take, which is I don't know if this is the best team, but I just feel like the national sports discourse has language for two sports, basketball and football, and that's it.
Well, ESPN, it'll be hockey now at ESPN. ESPN dictates this conversation. Their partnerships are with football and basketball. Those are
and
they spend hundreds of millions on MLB. They're spending hundreds of millions on hockey. They spend hundreds of millions on soccer, and they don't talk shit about soccer. Like, it's more about the talents, isn't it?
Well, the ratings for this World Series were up 25% from last year. Unfortunately, last year was
an all-time low.
Well, wait a minute. These are not good ratings. This has been the second worst World Series ratings before. I don't know if 14 million is a good number. It's better than that series was doing, but it's in the streaming age. I think 14 million is a pretty good number for anything.
A lot of people. I mean, only football is immune to this. Like, football is up in every respect. They got like their fourth highest rated Thursday night football game ever with Cardinals Packers, with like 21 million people watch that, which is unheard of for regular season sport, for anything on television. So football is immune to everything else is having a hard time recapturing numbers that they had pre-pandemic.
But unless you care about the Braves, if you turned on sports radio yesterday and someone was talking about the Braves, you turned it off.
But why do you care?
Because you wanted to hear about Aaron Rodgers.
But why do you care about the Cleveland Browns? Like, no one inherently cares about the Cleveland Browns. Right. You're just told to care because they have interesting stories and talking points, and people know some of the people, but that's on the media to inform the public about these things.
Whittingham, though, but again, it's not the crime. It's the fame of the criminals.
Correct.
Baker and Odell going at it trumps everything. No good reason. I mean,
And then Aaron trumps that.
It's the same reason. When I say no good reason, the same reason that your news stream is stuffed with Kardashian and Davidson right now. Like, it's just nonsense, gibberish, fun soap opera. Oh my God. And now cue the telenovela music. Odell's dad is involved. And Baker's getting his feelings hurt, and he insists on being honest in that moment, Stugotz. He insists on being honest, saying, you know what? I'm not going to lie. I didn't love that video. Why'd you do that to me? I've talked to him man to man and face to face, Odell's dad. And it's because Odell and his dad are fed up with you. Throw the ball to his son. He used to be great. He's not great anymore.
That's all enough. I mean,
like, what? Whose dad wouldn't be mad about that? Odell's been good for 3 years. Not good on the field, but like, he's behaved. He was a nightmare in New York. He's been a good soldier. Dad said, bleep that. I'm gonna copy and paste a YouTube video and see if I get it in the news stream. And now Odell is kicked out of practice, and that is nonsense gibberish that's easier to talk about than guy throwing his life away driving 156 miles an hour.
He was excused from practice yesterday, excused from practice today. I wonder what's going to happen there. I really do.
It seems like they're on the path to him getting waived.
And then he gets to choose.
They couldn't trade him. They couldn't trade him at the deadline.
They tried. No one wanted the contract.
And the contract.
Yeah.
Really?
Money.
Seriously?
Schefter said this morning they tried to trade it. No one wanted the contract. I mean,
curious what it's like getting embarrassed by your dad, like at work. Chris,
It's
what
terrible.
is that like?
It's terrible.
Agreed.